And Sunday. Hello, everybody. Come on in. This says we're alive. We should be. We are ticking away. Yes. Hello, everybody. Come on in. Have a seat. It's time for the Sunday Funnies. I am here with Mr. Brian K. Morris this morning. We're gonna talk funny books. Come on in. Good to see you. The chat is open. There's our heads up warning from Chrome that we are actually live.
Hurrah!
Hurrah! Exactly. Come on in, everybody. It's time for the Sunday Funnies. Join in. Chat's wide open. Waiting for a waking person. Are you there? Maybe I need to run to Facebook and make my thing there live too.
Yeah, tag me so it'll go on to my pages too.
I will. Let me switch over to that right now as we're talking.
Yeah, I'll talk. I'll cover for you, Randy.
I know you can, Brian. Not a problem.
Okay, well then, hi folks. I'm Brian K. Morris, and I'm so tickled to be here this morning because Randy and I are of the same vintage, where we are sitting on our front porch yelling at all the kids to get the hell off our lawn. But Randy and I, we seem to like the same kind of vintage classic comic books. And I can't speak for Randy, but I can go back and reread the stuff from the golden age of comics, which everyone knows is age 12, and love the heck out of it. Whereas a lot of stuff being produced now, I don't have the same enthusiasm for, but I still love it. But I'll introduce myself. I am Brian K. Morris.
I was going to introduce you. It's okay.
Then please do. I don't want to take that away from you. I was vamping for you.
You're only here for a few minutes, and you're already taking over the program.
I do that. I was on a show last week where the host had a loose grip on the reins, and I just out of habit, I started taking over. And I am a good morning, Teresa Dunn. Wow. And I tend to fill in power vacuums, Randy. So if I start overplugging myself, like for my morning show, never mind the furthermore at 10 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or my Tuesday night show, Clever Title Pending at 8 p.m.
There we go.
And this week we've got I gotta look to make sure I get it right.
No, save that for later in the conversation. Right now, we're going to run the open.
Oh, that's true. Yes.
Welcome in, everybody.
My wife is doing this at me.
Pointing her finger at you.
At least it was that one.
Mine's walking upstairs, so if you hear any creaking on the program, that's my wife walking in the kitchen. So.
Or me, my knees.
Or my knees, absolutely. Yeah. Here's the opening, everybody. Hang on.
Comics are awesome.
Comics are awesome.
It's true.
Can't argue with that. Hello, everybody. Come on in. Thanks for listening in to our everybody out there in Indie Vault Radio Land. We appreciate you listening in. This is another edition of Sunday Funnies for the 11th of October in the year 2020. And I am here with Mr. Brian K. Morris of Rising Tide Publications.
Thank you, Randy. Appreciate
Brian,
being here.
Do the full introduction.
Okay. Anyone can stop me. I'm a constant promoter. I'm Morris of Rising Tide Publications. I'm an independent publisher, freelance hybrid author, award-winning playwright, and former mortician's assistant. We have produced some comics. We mostly write for others these days, but I published something a couple years ago, the Ghostly Tales of Spencer Spook, in cooperation with Ace Comics, but I also do novels with my name on them because I wrote them. Also, if you're a comic book fan, definitely recommend the original Skyman battles the Master of Steam, and my series book Volcana: Rebirth of the Champion. The sequel will be out next year, hopefully. But I'm also a broadcaster that I do Never Mind the Furthermore, interactive talk show, very much like this one, but nowhere near as good as Randy's. At 10 a.m. in the morning Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Central. And on Tuesday nights, we do an interview show called Clever Title Pending, where we talk about creativity and the business behind it. And this coming Tuesday, our guest will be Demon Phil Locklear, who should be a familiar name to your audience here. And hope you'll join me when you're not watching Indie Volt.
There you go. And hello, everybody. I am your host for the Sunday Funnies. I'm Randy Zimmerman. I'm a longtime commercial and graphic artist. Been doing this for many, many years. Done just about everything in the direct market that you can do. And am currently part of the Indie Volt network. And I do the Zim Geek channel here on YouTube that you can pop over to and subscribe, please, at any time, where I do cartoon instruction and occasional comic book commentary, just like we're having today. So.
Yeah. Cool.
And like I said, you're part of Indie Volt. I do need to run the warning that we are, if you look up in the upper right-hand corner, we are TVMA, DLSV, which means we are not for kids. So we might be covering topics and subjects today that are not meant for younger ears, though we are talking whimsical, funny books. So on this program, we do get into the underground and into the more, occasionally, very rarely, the darker, more realistic side of comics. But most of the time, we try to stay light and fun. So
cool. That's my jam.
That's what we're here for. Yeah. That's why I wanted to start this program is to remind folks out there that there's a lot more than the horrible. I shouldn't say horrible, than the realistic stuff you find out there in the newsstands most of the time now. You don't even, not even newsstands, comic shop. So used to be newsstands.
That's true.
Used to have spiral racks. Used to have magazine racks filled with comics.
Used to be the area where your mom and dad would put you in the corner and say, "Look at the funny books while the grown-ups talk."
Scott Rosema has a amazing story about spiral racks, in that his mom always knew that where he was in the drugstore when she could hear the squeak from the spiral rack.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It's one of those unforgettable sounds once you have one, or in your youth when you're sitting there digging through trying to find the comic. You knew that the distributors didn't get to all of the stores. So
that's true. Well, I was such a fervent comic fan in my misspent youth that our distributor actually let me help him rack the books because I was usually there when he got there. So
the ladies in the drugstore used to hate dealing with comics and magazines, so they saved the bundle for me. I used to walk home barefoot 2 miles to my house. No, I used to walk home from school for 2 miles because I couldn't stand sitting in the bus for so long. And the folks figured out that it was good exercise for me. But I used to swing by the drugstore every day on my way home from school and straighten up the comic rack. And eventually they said, hey, since you're doing this all the time, why don't we give you a free comic book and let you put the new ones up, and you can just consider yourself the merchandiser for that rack. And
oh, wow, that's cool.
I did that for quite a while. So I every Tuesday or Thursday when the comics came, I believe it was Thursday. Yeah, Ludington Daily News was our distributor up here. They never cared about comics, so we got comics 3 weeks usually later than anybody else got them. Mm-hmm. So and being such a big fan, I pretty much knew their schedule anyway, unless they were running late.
Right.
Because back then they used to run like clockwork. There was never a hardcore delay on comics, or else they had to pay a big fine to the printer.
Right.
So I was always there and going, Spider-Man week, click, here's the latest Marvel tales, or here's Amazing Spider-Man. And we used to get a group of us around and pass them out before I even put them up on the stand. So.
Oh, that's great. Great. Well, I remember, back in my day, we had a local distributor who apparently wasn't paying his bill to independent news with any frequency. So we went for about 2 years, actually, in the mid-'60s, with infrequent deliveries of DC and Marvel. So we missed a lot of key issues at that time, but they were, for some reason, they could make their payments to like Charlton and Tower and Dell and Gold Key, and that's where I learned to really like the non-big two. In fact, Thunder Agents, I remember getting issue 3 for my birthday. I'd been looking at it on the stands, and I recognized Wally Wood because he signed the cover. And I knew him from Mad Magazine and some other things. But the idea of superhero spies was like that, for even to a 9 or 10-year-old, I thought that sounds stupid. And then one day for my birthday, it was still on the racks, and my mother said, you've been staring at that stupid comic for the last 3 weeks. I'll buy it for you. Okay. That's part of your birthday. And I took it home, fell in love with it. And that's really where I got the impetus to start trying different things. And so, that's when I got into like Sugar and Spike and the Charlton superheroes, the action heroes, I should say.
Yeah.
So I had a real love of the non-big ones, and I still love Superman, and I still read the majors, but that kind of got me going into like the alternate comics. And then in the 80s, when I was helping run a comic shop in East Central Illinois, it was natural for me to just jump into things like First Comics and of course Arrow and this stuff you were doing, because as I mentioned before, when you and I met on the air, that I was a fan of your work way back when. So
that's awesome. Thank you so much.
I'm glad to.
For me, it was almost exactly the opposite. I grew up in a very religious household. My parents banned superheroes from the house.
Okay.
And I loved comics. They wouldn't let me read superheroes. So I read every other comic that wasn't superhero. I talked them into letting me have Strange Adventures, which was running reprints of Adam Strange at the time, because it's just a guy out in space.
Oh, sure.
He's not some superhero violent dude. He solves all of his problems by thinking. Yeah. And then when my parents caught me with a Twilight Zone digest that had a guy making a deal with the devil, they traded me superheroes for supernatural books, not realizing that, I was going to collect Son of Satan and Ghost Rider and all of those great Marvel supernatural titles from back in the 70s.
Beautiful stuff.
That folks still haven't, caught up to, is, in my opinion, in quality. It's so crazy. And then the black and white magazine stuff happened. And, that's how I discovered the Spirit, was from Jim Warren's Spirit reprints.
My discovery of the Spirit was the 1966, I think it was, Harvey reprint.
Oh yeah.
And it just amazed me. It's like, this is back in the time in the 60s when, everyone now is used to full length stories, but back then, full length stories for like Superman and Batman were pretty rare, because you got like 2, maybe 3 stories in any single issue. In fact, I told you I brought some stuff, and a friend of mine brought me this week. Like this one here, Superboy number 52 from 1956, the year I was born.
Yeah.
And there's 3 stories, and there are 3 full stories. I mean, if you go with your classic story construction of establishing setting and character, then introducing complications, fighting the complications, plot twists, and then resolution. I mean, you got all that in 8 pages. And Will Eisner was the absolute master of that. And even at that early age, I thought, man, this is this is as good as it gets.
Yeah, that was it for me with the Warren magazines, especially because you had 7 or 8 Spirit stories all in a row, and it's like, oh, this stuff is so good.
It is, yeah. And Will was doing original covers for him and stuff, and still as in command of his talent as he was way back in the day. It was. I agree. The Warrens were a must for me, and I also got into Skywald because I started recognizing artists, and I saw that some of the artists had been working for Marvel primarily, since it was Saul Brodsky as part of that. And seeing like great artists, like that's where I got introduced to Jack Katz, and from there I went to First Kingdom. But like some of the pages I really love were like those beautiful Bill Everett pinups, and seeing his stuff without color and just the incredible line work the guy could do.
I don't remember us having a lot of Skywald around in our area, or I would have picked it up and gotten into that during that period too. But we were all the black and white magazines were practically all Warren and then Marvel.
Yeah, and our distributor managed to get him. Of course, this is the same one that wouldn't pay his bill to Marvel back in the 60s. So, but I was grateful for it. I really was. It was really good stuff.
I hear you. And then from there, what?
Oh, from there, in the 70s, discovering and in an age when you could afford to buy everything that month.
Oh, yeah.
Boy, does that take us back, right?
Yes, it does.
But from there in the mid 70s, I had to go to east for a while, and I lived in Newport, Rhode Island, where this place had opened up, and it was called a comic book shop.
Oh yeah,
and you walk in, and there's nothing but comics in there, and a few toys at the time. And I'd been following the stuff. Of course, I lived in the middle of Illinois. I lived about 10 miles from an interstate. And, my only contact with the outside world was, a larger cultural world, should I say, was through comics.
Right.
And,
yeah. Yep.
Back in the day when if you wanted music information, you bought like Tiger Beat and 16 magazine because there wasn't, or Hit Parader because there was no
Cream.
Rolling Stone. Cream. Yes. Oh my
Cream.
God. I still have
Rolling Stone was running at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I still have my old issues of Cream. I love that magazine, but no, then I got back home, and it turned out that one of the guys in Champaign, Illinois, where I had been buying my back issues from, he discovered the comic shop thing, and he wanted someone who knew too much about comics to help him run the place. So I got hooked into that, and I was working for a couple of comic shops in the area at the time because the owners were related by blood.
Okay.
But eventually I wound up kind of becoming the ordering manager and assistant manager of the place, and buying so many great comics. And since I was in charge of the ordering, I could make sure I got them all. Plus, hey, I'll stay late and I'll distribute the comics. I'll check them in. Hey.
Yeah.
And so lock the doors, and then deliveries were on Thursday nights, actually.
Who were you getting the comics from at that point?
Originally, it wasn't Diamond because Diamond wasn't around. Our first distributor was a sub-distributor of Seagate, Phil Suling's operation, out of St. Louis. And I kept telling my boss, we've got to get somebody a little more professional. And he's like, well, he's servicing us and he gets us most of what we order. And I'm like, no, I don't like that most part. And secondly, it should not come on torn out pages from one of those desk calendars. Those were our invoices. And I'm thinking, we need to go with somebody a little more high class than this. And God, I'm trying to think. They were out of Illinois. God, I blank out on names of the air, but we had a distributor out of an Illinois city just on the opposite side of the river from St. Louis.
That's not Elkhart.
No.
Not Friendly Frank's, is it?
No. Way south.
All right.
It began with an S, I think. I can see their logo. I should have written it down before I got here. But anyway, they were really good until two of their employees decided.
Making notes on your memoirs here.
Yeah, I do need to. I get this kind of aphasia, where I forget names. So, Charles, if I forget your name sometimes, don't be astonished. Anyway, but no.
Not a problem, Mike. Not a problem.
Okay, we're good. No, seriously, Randy. We went up to a higher class of distributor for a while until the owner's employees thought, hey, this guy has a nice house. He has a nice car. If we own the company, we can have a nice car and we can have all the wonderful trappings of society. And so the guy was a good businessman, so he sent them the business with a no takebacks clause, and they had run it into the ground within 6 months because they forgot the other part was paying your bills. And it was then we switched over to Diamond. Okay. And that's why I feel I can rant about them with authority. And I stayed in the field till that retail end until like 89 when I moved into public broadcasting. Why I'll never know at this point, but I kept my hand in it because I always kept getting extras and I kept buying too much, and I had my own operation going, and I had my own shop for a while in '94 until my partner flaked out on me, and then I kept going until about 2000.
We all know how that goes. We all know how that goes, Brian. Yeah.
Oh, we do. Yeah. But anyway,
back in the late 70s, I had the first comic shop in pretty much a 50-mile radius to my house. I was raised in a real small town northeast of Flint. And I used to drive 20 or so miles up to Saginaw. Saginaw actually had a small comic shop for a while called Libby's that was down in the basement. You walk down the basement of this old building, and it was musty, and you open that door and you get that musty smell. And Libby's was a lady who was really heavy into comics and carried back issues and was getting I think she was getting distributed from Big Rapids, Rapids distribution at the time with Jim Friel. And that's who I picked up when I, back in the late 70s, I was working at a pinball arcade, and the guy had an open room. So I convinced him to let us open up a comic shop. We got some old racks from a drugstore that was going out of business. And I got comics from Big Rapids. In fact, we were around for about a year or so, attached to that pinball arcade. Back then it was pinball, just as video games were starting to come in. I think we had Spy Hunter. That was the cutting edge for us. As far as games, as electronic video games go. But our last bill came after we had shut the store down. I was so worried we weren't going to cover it, as Conan number 100 was in that group. I remember that distinctly, and I'm like, oh man, we're going to bite the farm on this. It come out to like $125 was our bill.
Wow.
And we're freaking trying to cover that. And it's really funny looking at how comic shops today, their average bill is, in the thousands, 3,000-4,000 a hit if you're a decent store. Yeah. And we're all worried about $125.
Wow. And many of us could just pull out a card and pay it right away, hopefully. Yeah.
And then from there, I started getting comics from there was a chain of bookstores that were actually adult merchandise. They had regular magazines in it, and then they had an adult aisle where they made all their money from.
Right.
And,
that was my original comic shop. Was that too?
Yeah. I ended up working for them, selling comics, and then charging $1 to go around the corner into the adult alley. So I got a good exposure to the underground comics, and found quite a few Cerebus ones during that time.
Oh wow, really?
So, yeah. So it was a part of a chain of stores, and they were also supplied by Big Rapids. And I was able to hit all of the stores and the chains and go, hey, I'm buying this one. Here's a Cerebus one tucked way in the back. That's pretty cool.
Oh man. Well, I remember my boss at the comic shop wasn't as hip on comics as I was. He just never had an interest till he found out that you could make money from it. And like you, we had that back room. We charged 50 cents. And if you bought something, we put it towards the cost of the magazine and such.
Yeah.
But, I remember one time I came into the store and he had bought some of the fake Cerebus number 1. That someone had been driving around with a box of these or whatever, say, hey, you want some Cerebus number 1? And he thought, man, I'm getting a great deal. And I had already heard that person was coming around. And so I'm like, how many did you buy? And he's like, well, I just bought a few. And then I was just flipping through one of the fan magazines that you like to read and found out they were fake. And so I just got rid of them. And I'm like, it's like, no, even those have some value. You could probably get your money back. So you can see why I went solo.
Yeah, and back then there was only the weekly Comics Buyer's Guide that was coming out, right?
Oh yeah. It's like
for comic news.
Yeah, for
comic reader, maybe.
Yeah, the comic reader, the Comics Journal, also. Plus, towards the end of my run there, we had Amazing Heroes, which I really loved. Comics Interview. But most of the time I went to a lot of conventions in the Chicago area.
Okay.
And I wrote a weekly newsletter for our shop. And I did that for about 2.5 years. Then but I would go to shows in St. Louis or Indianapolis or Chicago, and I'd sit in on the panels just scribbling stuff down my little notepad. And between that and all the fan magazines, which nobody else seemed interested in but me, I was like I was like the Walter Cronkite of East Central Illinois as far as comic news went, because I was the only one going out and trying to get that stuff. So that's the part I find fascinating even to this day.
Yeah. Used to crave those annual Amazing Heroes preview books.
Oh my
to
God!
Go through and go. I'm gonna have to get that one. I'm gonna have to get that one. We were all up on the news. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was great stuff. And that thick magazine, that was good stuff back then.
I think I still kept a couple of them. So
yeah.
Teresa Dunn says, "Hey, good morning. Good Sunday morning." Nine Realms says, "Good morning, Brian and Randy and Brian." Nine Realms. That's Michael Oden doing Elysian Fields.
Hi, Michael. Good to see you, man.
Elysian Fields, A Pyramid Gambit's available right now on Indiegogo. Definitely go check that book out.
For sure.
Comic Book Black Belt, our friend Russ Leach, says getting consecutive Marvel comic runs in the UK is a bit hit and miss. Yep.
Just like us in the 60s and 70s, yeah.
Over in the UK, they went through the entire Marvel library like 4 or 5 times, reprinting them in different formats and different methods. Those always fascinated me whenever I got a hold of a copy of Titan or the Spider-Man book. They were oblong, they were wider than they were tall, and they had 2 comic pages reprinted each. That used to really catch my interest.
Oh, mine too. And like the Captain Britain, I remember we did get some of the early Captain Britons in the show.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Those were fun.
Yeah. Morning. All by the way, good morning, Russ. Hope you're doing fine. Russ has a book that's available on Indiegogo called Only Death Can Save Us. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but we've had him here on the Sunday program. It's an action romp, I guess he would say, about death.
I love it.
As the main characters with the other 4 horsemen, he's got a real crisp style. It's a real professional looking product.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I can't wait to see it. He just passed his goal, I think, a week or so ago.
Oh,
Joe D. Well, it's one of those products that when you look at it, and you look at the amount of pledges, you go, how come that book is so low? This book is really professional looking.
Yeah. Good morning, Joe.
It's really super and polished and just sweet. Joe D. McPhee has a book also available, I believe, on Kickstarter called Amazonia. Good morning, Joe. Good morning, all. I'm a bit late, but watching. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate you. I do appreciate everybody watching. Marv says, hello, gentlemen. Good morning, Marv. How are you? Hope everything's well over on the coast of Portugal this morning. Doing well. And also want to note that welcome to all of our Indie Vault radio listeners, wherever you are. I don't have the numbers in front of me because that's at Varian Grant's house, and Varian's currently quite under the weather. So you see him. I was hoping that he would pop in, but apparently he's not quite awake yet this morning. So Joe also says, I love hearing stories about distribution, the problems that were there and how you got over them. Learn a lot from that being on the creative side to know that can happen with physical stores. A hashtag getting educated. Absolutely.
Cool.
Here's your friend, Sarah. Sarah says, hey there, Sarah.
Morning, Sarah. Good to see you.
Always welcome to have you aboard. Sarah says, it's Brian. Much love. There you go.
Much love, Sarah.
Catch the Crazy Podcast, says the creator interviews. Indie creator interviews. Good morning. Catch the Crazy Podcast. I'm going to have to catch the Crazy Podcast and see what's going on there.
I'll make a note of that.
The great John Celestri says, good morning, guys. Good morning, John. John the Animator. John the Animator Comics had I believe his current set of books are available on both Indiegogo and Kickstarter under John the Animator Comics.
Very cool.
All ages comics. Have you ever met John, Brian?
No, I haven't. I haven't had the pleasure, but I've seen him on the show several times. Always a fun guy to watch. It's
always fun to have him on and watch everybody's reaction when he tells everybody what he's done. So their eyes just get wider and wider. You did what? You worked on She-Ra? You did what?
Yeah,
Turbo Teen.
Oh yeah, Turbo Teen. Oh yeah, that brings back memories.
But it's Boba Fett that gets him. He did Boba Fett for the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, that was. I'm one of the few people that actually like that thing. I don't know what my problem was. I think I was probably having several after work drinks at the time.
Everybody,
But,
everybody likes that, but usually for all the wrong reasons.
yeah, except for the Boba Fett segment, because I remember watching that and thinking, "OMG, why isn't this the show?"
Yeah, exactly.
I liked portions of it, but quality animation with a good storyline versus Art Carney and B. Arthur as space heroes. Let me think.
Yeah, exactly. William Burns says bow ties and fezzes are cool.
Darn right they are. They're fantastic. Even no, that's the other doctor. Excuse me.
Vera Sam says happy Sunday. Vera Sam does a book called The Crazies. Welcome to the Crazies.
Cool. Yeah.
I believe, and that's on I want to say Kickstarter. Also, right now, if you check that out, we're going to have Sam back on here very quickly, probably in a couple of Sundays, so that we can get in bigger detail on his book. Last time he was on, we had a full house, and we barely got to show off everybody's product, and then it was pretty much time to go. So.
Oh man, that sounds cool.
It gets crazy sometimes. Arts and Crafts Channel says, good morning, Arts and Crafts Channel. Thanks for listening so much. And the chat is open, everybody. You are welcome to chime in. Sarah says, we are the crazies. LOL. Exactly.
She makes a good point for that.
There's Glenn B. Fleming says, hey, Randy. Hey, Glenn. How you doing? We're going to have Glenn back on here in a couple of weeks also. I think Glenn was on during the Crazies program. He got to spend in his youth an afternoon with Jack Kirby.
Oh, man.
And has done a book and a documentary, and he's an artist in his own right. He also does Comics Unlimited magazine that's currently out over in out from England. He's based in England, but it's available everywhere, I believe, on Amazon.
Cool.
So
Very cool.
Check that out. And Glenn's done a number of other books. He's done one on Easter Island and a few other really great topics. So
yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Glenn, did you do some stuff for Tomorrows too? I worked for Tomorrows for 15 years as a transcriber. So
cool.
Yeah,
looking forward to being back on the show. Glenn says, "Good,
yeah,
good, Glenn. Well, we'll have you back on soon. I promise." So not next week. Next week's going to be another special program, but after that, we'll probably have Glenn and Sam back on. So
cool. They're all special, Randy.
Well, yes, but this is the next week's one I've been trying to get together for a while. Just like trying to get you on, Brian. I've always wanted to have you on, especially on this show, because we get to talk about funnies.
I know, and it's so much fun to speak to somebody who is as knowledgeable about comics as you are.
It's sit here and compare notes, because I grew up in Michigan, and you weren't that far away down in Illinois.
Yeah, and if you ever went to the old Chicago ComicCon, we probably bumped elbows at one point or another. In fact,
we probably snarled at each other as we were bumping shoulder to shoulder, trying to get through the tight, narrow hallways.
Yeah, I always carried a briefcase with me, and I learned how to balance it on my upper thigh, so that I yell "excuse me" at the top of my lungs as I'm using it to clear a way, like a wedge to clear through the people trying to get to the back issues. That put me in good training. I went to San Diego in 2006 for the con there. Wanted to go, had a book coming out that I'd worked on with Tomorrows. That got delayed by DC Legal. But I went out there, and my wife and I had a great time. But I tell people it's the first convention I'd ever went to in all my years of convention going, where I came back with bruises.
Wow. That was 2006.
2006, which was pretty much the last year that you could get in fairly easily. After that, it became a mess, shall we say?
Yeah, I did consecutive shows, 2001 to 2003, out there as a gopher for Bernie Wrightson.
Oh, cool! Oh, that's awesome.
They would fly me out, and I would stand there and look imposing, and sell original artwork while Bernie sat there and shook hands with everybody.
Oh, that's fantastic!
There's some great memories out of that time. I'll tell you.
I do too. And one memory I got to share with you is Timothy Bradstreet.
Yes,
he used to live in Bloomington, Illinois, and he went to high school. And he came over to my shop to shop.
Oh, and cool!
He would bring some of his art, and he's like, "Do you think I should show this to anybody?" And he's like 17, 18. I'm like, I'm like, yeah, get your butt up to Chicago and start making the rounds of the portfolio. And what was funny was, I left the shop. He had already moved up. He had moved out west by then.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, of course I followed him as a fan, and when I got to Artist Alley in San Diego, I saw he was on the list along with Francesco, another old friend of mine.
Okay. Yeah.
And I said hello to Francesco, and then I went over to Tim Bradstreet. Of course, by this time, Bradstreet's done like the Marvel Knights stuff, the Punisher and everything. He's done like all the gaming supplies and Hawk World and everything. He's working with Tim Truman, and he's a capital C celeb by this time.
Yeah.
And I see him, I'm walking up to his booth. And of course, if you don't know Tim, he went from high school looking kind of kid to looking like a biker, leather, long hair, looking a little surly, but he was a sweet guy. And I just wanted to go up and say, I don't know if you remember me. And of course, back then I had like much darker hair and a lot more of it, and a beard and everything, and didn't wear glasses. But I walked up to him, and he's talking to some Asian gentleman who's in like a charcoal gray 3-piece suit, and you can tell he didn't like go to Kmart to get it. And I hear them throw big numbers around. I'm like, I'll just come back later. This is important. Tim, Tim will show you the kind of guy Timothy Bradstreet is. He looked up at me, his eyes went wide, and he told the guy, hold on a second, I owe this guy a hug. And he broke the conversation to come around and give me the biggest bear hug and go, Brian, where have you been? Where the hell? It's like, and we had and this poor Asian guy, I felt bad for him. I'm like, Tim, if it's business, I'll come back later. Really? I will. He's like, nah, he can wait. Yeah, he can wait. He can wait. I'm like, no. So yeah, I have a lot of good memories at one time, but I tell people San Diego is a place where I'm glad I went, but if I never go back again, I'm just as good. I've had the experience.
I tell everybody if they ever get the chance to go, they need to go once. You need to go once. If you're into comics, you need to go just to experience it, just to sit there. And because like I said, I was a gopher for Bernie. So if Bernie needed a drink or needed something or whatever, I was the guy who went and did it. So cool. I could tell you at the time the room was 5 rows deep by 40 rows long.
Yeah.
And it took you a half an hour to walk from one wall to the other wall if you didn't stop. And if you just walked and bobbed and weaved through the crowd as you were going along down one of the main vertical or horizontal hallways.
Yeah.
So that was an experience. You got to see a lot of people. This was back before it got really, really crazy, like you were saying.
Right.
And you're walking there, and David Hasselhoff goes walking by, and Ron Perlman goes walking. Ron Perlman was doing Beauty and the Beast at the time.
Right.
The first year I went there was a few years before that. I traveled with Motor City Comics, and was there to help them sell books. And we had a few celebrities just walk up, and we're like, dude, holy crap, Yeah. Kevin Smith, right after he had done Clerks, I knew who he was, but he had a Circle K jacket on and was looking through stuff. And we had Ruben Blades pop in.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
And he was friends with Michael Goldman, who runs Motor City. So he came in behind the counter, and I'm like, dude.
Oh, man.
I was going to stop him, and one of Mike's assistants comes over and says, no, he does this all the time. He sits back here and just looks through it and watches books. And we had so many people walk by and go like this, and he goes, I'm not him. He says, I get that a lot. I'm not him. It was hilarious.
Oh, that's funny. But yeah, I was in Kappa Alpha at the time.
Okay.
The Appazine. In fact, I was Central Mailer for 2 years.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can say that now with retrospect, but at the time, it's like, damn, this is like
did a lot of this.
Yeah.
Line it up, stamp. Yeah.
Yeah, and the classic KA stapler, but that sometimes worked, but no, some of my friends were regulars at San Diego, and the ongoing joke was that if you stood at one end of the dealer's room, you couldn't see the far wall because of the curvature of the earth.
Okay.
And at one point, my wife and I were looking up, and I told her that joke many times, and we're standing there, and she looks over and she's like, oh, crap. And I'm like, what? She goes, look at the far wall. I'm like, what far wall? But there were a lot of banners and stuff hanging from the ceiling.
Oh, yeah.
I got to see Olivia Munn.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so my stalker instincts were taken care of with that meeting. But yeah, it's a great experience. I agree with you. Everyone should do it at least once. They may not want to do it more than that, but it is an experience, and it is not like a regular convention.
No, it's a madhouse.
It's a madhouse. It's a totally different experience. And, they think, well, I went down to the weekend swap meet this weekend, so I'm ready for San Diego. Oh, hell no, you're not. You almost need to go into training for this thing.
Yeah, I tell them if you did Chicago or if you do Motor City, it's about 5 of those stuck right end to end, at least.
Yeah.
And that was way back when. I mean, it's been 17 years since.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and mine's coming on 15. Yeah, I can't even imagine what it's like now.
I still have my old exhibitor badge hanging on the wall from 2003.
That's lovely. I think I've still got my guest badge somewhere around here. So
I got a memorabilia wall back behind me that's got different badges and stuff from memorable places, just to remind me. You got to do those little things. I figured out after a while, because back in the 80s, the working on comics got to be a job, and it's not a job. If you love what you're doing, it should never be a job. So I started a little wall of memorabilia stuff, and I started carrying a sketchbook with me in order to go around to the people that I really like and get sketches to remind myself that I'm a fan of this. It's not just something that you have to worry about making money. And,
true. Yeah. You're absolutely right. But if you do this with a regularity, you'll find there is no money here. But anyway,
most of the people are all here for. Most of the people are here because they love to be here. And I tell everybody it gets into the blood. The first time you hold your first publication, the first book that you've printed, and you hold it and you look at it and you realize there's other people out there that who knows where are reading it. That it just that's it for you. That you either decide then and there if you're going to be in the business or not for the rest of your life. And then even if you come up to hurdles like with the alternative press, I bumped heads with Diamond so much I lost all my hair. But,
there was shrapnel too. Yeah. I get it, Randy. Yeah,
you still figure out how to stay in the business and be part of the business. So I retailed for a good 10-15 years. I met my wife at a comic shop. Mm-hmm. So she would come in every week and pick up comics, and then she'd come in dressed nicer and nicer, and eventually we started talking and comparing notes, and
I love that. Well,
went from there, and that was when there wasn't a whole lot of women that came into comic shops during that time. But
yeah, that's true. In fact, I tell a story that we were having one of those comic shop conversations with the testosterone crowd around.
Oh yeah,
and a young woman walked into the store, and I was behind the counter, and I said hello, and let me know if I can help you, if there's anything you're looking for. And so we're talking, and then one guy breaks off from the group, and I can hear him going up to the young woman rather, and saying, "Excuse me, but there's nothing really for you here. You're wasting your time here."
I remember you telling that story. I would have been so mad. Yep.
Oh, I was furious, and he was a good friend, but I escorted him out by the seat of his pants, frankly. I thought, no, we don't do that around here. That's bad form. But no, comic books led to my wife and I starting to date.
Cool.
And we just, we're edging up on we're 29 and a half years by now.
Wow.
Yeah. She's put up with me that long.
Yeah, you were probably married close to the same time I was then.
So 90. 91 rather, 91.
We're closing in on our 30th as well.
Oh, that's congratulations. That's awesome.
Thanks.
I love that.
Yeah, I do too. Find somebody that tolerant,
Yeah.
You got to keep them. Yeah.
No joke.
Luckily, she's a big comic fan. At the time that she's got more long boxes than I do, because I traded all of my comics in for boxed sets like the EC volumes when they first come out.
The Russ Cochran stuff. I still have all mine. Those are beautiful.
I mean, I can't swing my camera around enough. I just picked up that set the other day from Scott up at Galaxy Comics. He ran across that, and I use them now usually for bookends for my bookcases because they're so sturdy.
Yeah.
Put the other books in between them.
Yeah, I'm using mine to prop up the foundation. I used to get those from Bud Plant, and it's like, oh my god, somebody sent me a black hole. This thing is like weighs like
yeah. When you get those in the mail, you were like, oh, this is so cool because you knew what it was. As soon as you got it, it was wrapped in cardboard. Digging into it, trying to find it. Yeah.
Oh my god, yes.
Ralph Griffith says, I need my funnies. Yes, Ralph, thank you very much.
Amen.
The old Rosemont Center.
Yes.
Even before that, the old Marriott. I can still see the layout of the Chicago ComicCon in my head from the Marriott, and the Quest Lounge and the walk you had to make from the elevators, the conference rooms that they had set up just as you got off the elevators for the artist alley, and then you had to walk all the way around the other side of the hotel to get to the huckster's room.
Oh my god, yes. Yeah. I remember
good times. So we'd stay in that hotel and play pool at the Quest and sit there and talk and drink until the wee hours of the morning and go, oh, hey, I got convention in the morning.
Oh man, yeah, and I've got so many blackmail stories on some of the some of the pros at that time.
I'm sure you do.
Oh, I do. I was talking to John Morrow when I went out to the only time John Morrow of Tomorrow's publications I met in person, and I said, I've been transcribing his interviews. I want to put out a book of all the stuff you guys keep cutting out of the books, and he went ashen. He's like, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, I can't. I've heard some really interesting stories. Let's just say I helped on the Carmine Infantino book.
Oh, okay.
That Carmine was outspoken.
Well, I remember reading a lot of Carmine Infantino black and white magazines at the time and going, this guy's got to be a little bent.
He's I respect him greatly,
and I mean that in the best way. By the way, I don't mind anything at all negative by it, but I would have loved to have actually met him in person. I never did.
I met him once, and he could turn on his relationships like on a dime. 1 minute you're the best friend he's got in the world. The next day, I hate you and your kin and everyone that shares your DNA. Yeah. And we had someone in common that he had fallen out with. And but I saw him at the Superman celebration in Metropolis, Illinois, later that year, and I went up and said, "Hey, listen, Carmine, I'm glad to meet you. I did the transcription for your book," and you would have thought that I was a long lost relative that owed him money. He was just
really
kind and so courteous, and he was almost effusive in his thanks, for what little I had done. But no, I respect his, aside from the fact he's one of the greatest artists I think that ever worked in the comics industry and an amazing designer. His time at DC, looking back on it, how hard he tried to find new formats for comics. That's why we have the Treasury editions, the 100-page spectaculars, which we just now got back into with Walmart.
Yeah, and they're not doing those anymore either. But
no, and I'm already missing them too.
I didn't mean to derail your line of thought, though. Keep going.
No. If you don't do it, I will, Randy. I have the attention span of a mayfly. But no. I looking back on Infantino's reign at DC, he really was, and he was trying to put out some different titles. He was really trying to push the boundaries of what mainstream comics could be at the time. And so, I think he deserves a lot of praise for what he did and tried to do.
That his work was one of the things that really drove home the power of inking for me, because I would look at him inked by somebody and go, who is this? Who did this? This doesn't completely. And then I'd sit back and look at the old Adam Stranges that I loved as a kid. And it's the same guy. It's the same guy, only he's inked by a different dude. So
Or
I got to meet Murphy. I think I did a panel with him at one point. I was narrating a panel with him. I know I've got his autograph around somewhere. But what another just great guy, kind person, just amazing.
Yeah, I got to meet him in person. I got to interview him one time for an article for the Krypton Companion from Tomorrow's. And he was such a wonderful guy that he found out that I was living in Central Illinois at the time. And he started interrogating me about possible relatives from when he worked for, I want to say Avon, but I'm sure that's not it. But there was a comic company out of Chicago in the 50s that was doing some stuff. And he worked for them for a couple of years. I think just before he got the Buck Rogers strip.
Yeah,
And
back in the 50s, you did whatever you could to put food on your table. And
Exactly.
if you got to work into comics, you worked in comics. So.
Exactly. But he wound up interrogating me, and he's one of the few artists that, I love his work so much.
Oh,
that, he wound up interrogating me after a point. I got all fanboy about it. And I was like, one of the few times I've managed that. But no, you're right. He was a wonderful, wonderful gentleman. And it was funny because Michael Urey for Back Issue, and I would say, hey, I'd pitch an article and I'd say, hey, can I interview Murphy? He goes, no, it's my turn to interview Murphy. You get him next time. So it's like, what a wonderful guy, though. He really was a sweetheart.
Oh, yeah. Sarah S. says, Brian, next time you head to Chicago, sneak me in your vehicle.
We may have to talk.
Joe says, love San Diego Comic-Con. Learned so much from going there. It is still a bucket list item to exhibit. But going as a publisher is great. Yeah.
I could bet. I was just there as a fanboy, middle-aged fanboy, but I still had a good time.
Well, the cool thing about gophering for Bernie while I was there is I was only working half of the time. The other half of the time I got to go out and talk to people and shake hands and pitch things, and got really close on a couple of really nice deals. At one point, almost had a vertigo. Almost got that.
Oh, really?
Missed it by this much. Almost had a Vertigo series with Will Dennis, and I was talking to Bob Schreck for quite a while because I had a buddy who knew him pretty well, and Bob was like going, "Send me a Batman story. I'd print it." This was back when he was the editor for the Batman stuff, and I'm like, I got a whole story about that a favor that I did for him at the time because. Who was running? Bob Harris, I think, was running DC at the time. Maybe not Bob Harris.
Oh no, he was at Marvel. He was one of the other chiefs at Marvel.
Carlin.
Mike Carlin, right? Mike Carlin. Yeah.
Mike Carlin was running it, and here's my as close as I ever got to Batman. Batman universe writing. I was talking to Bob, and I said, Bob goes, well, what do you want to do? Because I'll edit you, I'll help you go through, because he had read some of my stuff before and knew that I could write. And I'm like, well, Bob, if I could, he says, you know what I do? Says, I do Man Bat and the Outsiders. And he goes, you would what? Really? This is who would you have on the team? And I listed off a whole group of characters that I would just love to write. And he laughed. He laughed right straight at me and he goes, that you just gave me a list of every character that Mike Carlin hates. Every character that as long as Carlin is there, you will hardly ever see exposed, if only for copyright purposes, because he hates these characters. And then he thought, and he goes, tell you what, if you put that proposal together, if as a favor to me, if you put that proposal together, I promise you it'll never see print. But as a favor to me, if you were to put that proposal together, I'll tell you what I'll do. It says the first minute that Mike and I get into an argument, I'm going to run into his office. I'm going to take that proposal and plop it down on his desk and say, this is the next hot book. I'm doing this. And then I'm going to run all the way back to my office and listen to him scream as he reads it. It'll be the most funniest thing we've had in the office in a long time. And I said, if you'll do it, don't spend a lot of time on it because it's never going to see the light of day. But as a favor to me, if you wanted to do that, do that. So I went and did it up. And this is just as I was learning how to do Photoshop and all of this. So I put a collage of the characters together and wrote a quick outline. The whole idea behind the series wasn't the fact that they were a superhero team as much as they were a group therapy session.
Oh my God.
Each of the characters were going through a very hard time psychologically at the time. And what happens is Phantom Stranger goes around and kind of pokes all of them and tells them that if they all got that individually, they're all kind of a mess. But if they were ever to get together, that they could actually save the world.
Wow.
And he mentions that to Ambush Bug. And Ambush Bug goes,
one of my favorites.
Freaking A, I'm on a team. And he went around and he was their transportation. So whenever there was team business, he would pop up in front of wherever they were, hug them and go, time for team, and then take them and then teleport them all together wherever they were, It was a whole group of characters. So I had a 6-issue layout proposal for that. And I sent it to, and this was back during CompuServe days. This is how long ago this was.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I ended up mailing it to him. And it wasn't more than like 2 weeks later that I got an email from Bob with a bunch of thank yous on it. With the bottom line was, don't show your face around the DC offices for at least the next 2 weeks because Mike will remember your name. That's exactly what he said. And I'm like, must have worked.
Yeah, good work, Randy. Good work. Oh my God, that is so funny. That is great. I came about this close to working for Marvel at one point.
Yeah.
It was one of the Chicago cons, and it was Tom DeFalco was there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I like Tom DeFalco. I mean, he was really nice to me. I could tell he had a little edge to him, but it was kind of funny because I'd gone to the trouble of actually typing out a proposal for a couple of what if stories. Or one was G.I. Joe, because in my ignorance, I thought I could like supplant Larry Hama. And the other one was what if. Actually, I was doing the G.I. Joe as a fill-in. But I took it to him, and I spent about half an hour with the guy. And there's this long line of people, also, with their knee pads ready for a shot at Marvel. And he spends his time dissecting my proposals and telling me what worked and what didn't. And I learned more about writing and editing from him in just that brief time I was with him.
Wow.
That he went to that trouble, and he said, please submit something. And here's all these guys with stuff torn out of their spiral notebooks, handwritten in pencil and crayon and stuff, and they're just looking at me like, what a fool, he typed it up. And then he's praising the fact that I went and did this professional thing, but
it showed you cared. Yeah,
exactly. I bothered to find out what I had to do, and I kind of take credit though for Marvel doing the Doctor Who reprint comic that they did for 2 years.
Okay.
Of the stuff that was appearing in Marvel in Doctor Who Monthly at the time.
Yeah, that great Dave Gibbons material.
That's it.
Yeah.
He and I just started talking about, he said, well, what do you think Marvel should be looking at? And I was a fan of their British work. And of course, I mean, I'm a fan of Doctor Who. I thought I'd just explain it to anyone who came in late, but no, I said, well, you ought to look at reprinting that old Doctor Who stuff. And DeFalco's like, I'm not into Doctor Who. I don't read everything that comes in. But what's so big about it? And I said, well, Dave Gibbons is making a splash at DC right now. And I hear he's got this thing called Watchmen coming up. That might be pretty good.
Yeah.
And Mark Gruenwald just happened to walk behind him. And he said, Mark, make a note. We're going to talk about a Doctor Who comic when we go back to New York.
Oh, sweet. Oh,
so I think I'm responsible. Yeah. So I think I'm willing to thank you. I'm willing to take credit for it. And boy, howdy, that, Dave Gibbons in full color.
I think I still have those in my long boxes that I never traded away or anything because they were that good. Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's always going to be books that, you're going to have them shoved in the coffin with you because, there are just some things that you treasure so much. You're never going to get rid of, like my old Thunder Agents. I'm never going to get rid of those. My old, like my Sugar and Spikes. A friend of mine brought me a couple of Sugar and Spikes recently. And I'm like, do you need a kidney or anything? I'm willing to give it to you. I love that old Sheldon Mayer stuff.
Oh, yeah. And it still holds up. That's the thing. You could sit back and you read that material and it's still funny.
It's funnier than ever.
Funny. Yep.
Yeah. It's like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. You see it as a kid and it's kind of cool. Then you see it as a teenager and go, well, this is kind of edgy here. And then when you're an adult, it's like, oh my God, this is like The Princess Bride. It's like everything you could ever want in a film. And there's some comics like Sugar and Spike, like you said, Randy, that are the very same way. They're like wine. They get better with age. So.
Yeah. And they really are timeless.
Oh, they are.
Where are we at here? Sarah says, Brian, next time you're in Chicago, sneak me in. San Diego's great for publisher. Ralph says, off the wall question. Does Harvey still own Casper, Wendy, and Hot Stuff? ? I think there's somebody out there that still does. American. I want to say American Dream Comics, something like that, are still printing Casper and Wendy and Hot Stuff.
I think you're right. They put out something occasionally, and it's kind of it's nice, but it just doesn't have the same charm as that old Sid Jacobson stuff. So,
well, that stuff's never going to be repeated again, and that's another example of timelessness, especially even before the Sid stuff. You get back there, and the Dark Horse did a series of reprint books on that are just you sit there and you read that stuff and you go, wow, this stuff wasn't PC at all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's kind of frightening to see how much doesn't stand up to cancel culture.
Goodness. One of my favorite hot stuff covers. I got it on the rack here. It's got him laying in a pool of with other kids around him, and there's this other like pool of lava surrounding him. Looks like he had a really bad digestion problem in the pool. You sit there and you look at that and go, that would never pass the censors today. Never. Never pass the editors at all today. But
oh no.
Yeah,
oh my God, that's funny.
One of these days I'm going to do a video for Zim Geek and talk about just how crazy Harvey comics were from today's perspective. You sit there and you look at it and you go, really? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Because you look at just, I don't think there's a single title other than maybe Little Audrey, which at the time was a tomboy girl. That was remotely you would remotely see around today. I mean, just think about it. Little Lotta.
That's true.
You know, you would never, though I would love to see a Rebel Wilson Little Lotta movie. I keep saying that she would be perfect for that, but they'd never do it.
I'd pay to see that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, she'd be fantastic.
Yeah, you know, Hot Stuff is another big example. Hot Stuff is really an adult book. You know, he's a devil, he's a demon. Oh my goodness, you know.
I know.
Back then it was just, you know, he hangs around in hell. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and if you can find like a cover of him with a Ouija, if you can find a cover with him and a Ouija board together, you know, you could probably be on a week of Fox and Friends, you know.
Well, the only time now you see Hot Stuff around is if somebody's got him tattooed or on their arm, or there's a couple of Hot Stuff slot machines at the casinos.
Yeah, and you probably think they don't know who he is.
No, I'm sure they don't. It's just a cute little animated devil running around, and I'm like, that's Hot Stuff. That is so cool. Harvey did lease there was a Hot Stuff, a Richie Rich, and a Casper slot machine.
Oh, nice.
And that's I've seen all three of those, but the Hot Stuff one is incredible because he pops glasses, sunglasses on. He duck walks with his trident across the screen. He'll peek around the corner every once in a while and say hello, and then back around. It's just a hilarious game. And the Richie Rich and the Casper games are just, Casper's got Wendy and Nightmare in it, but those are really volatile games. I mean, they're mostly money sucking for me, but anyway, that's a whole nother story.
I was gonna say
the Hot Stuff game is fun just to watch the animation on it. It's just incredible.
That's when you tell your fanboy who's gone just a little bit over the edge when you're at the gambling machine. Oh, look at the animation.
I know who that character is. I'm playing this game. Yeah.
Look, it's Nightmare, the ghostly horse. You know,
I'm sitting there laughing and clapping at the animation, and everybody's poking around. Did you hit a jackpot? No, but this is awesome.
Yes.
He's riding on his trident like a broom, like a witch's broom, zooming through and setting stuff on fire as he goes along, and just really good animation stuff, just hilarious. Anyway,
fantastic.
Now
we derailed you again.
That's all right. We're all here to be derailed. That's where we were. Right. Off the wall, Harvey. Yeah, Harvey's a great old company that you'll never see the likes of which ever pop back again. Glenn says, when I had my first strip published back in the 80s, a boy at the convention with his dad, who was around my age, asked me to sign my book. I was both embarrassed and elated.
I get it. I get it.
Autographs are fun.
Yep.
Marv says, sorry, can't stay till the end. Catch up with you on the replay. Take care and be safe. Of course, Marv, have a great Sunday.
Take care, Marv.
Wish you well. He's probably already gone, but Marv, we always appreciate you watching whenever you watch. Speak soon, Marv. Glenn says. Joe says Marriott was a long time ago. Yeah, we talked about that at a previous podcast where that's where Marv Wolfman and George Perez got the idea for Titans Tower.
Right, and I remember the one year when it's
set up like a T.
That's right. And I remember when the con was downtown too at one of the hotels. I was there the year they brought in the Doctor Who people.
Okay. Yeah.
And the collective body heat destroyed the air conditioning.
I've heard about that. That was just slightly before my time of being that mobile to do Chicago. But
yeah,
I did just about every Marriott show and all of the Rosemont shows as long as they stayed Chicago Con, the first couple of Wizard Worlds. And then after that.
Oh, me too. Me too. I was out of there. What just wasn't the same.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. If you don't know about that hotel and you don't know the history of Chicago Comic-Con, yeah. So I remember riding on the expressway and knowing that that's the exit to get off at because there's a hotel.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Off the Tri-State Tollway. Yeah.
Yeah. Looks like a T. There you are. Yep.
Yeah.
Varian says greetings all. Greeting Varian. Nice
Varian.
To see you up and around. Sarah says hi Varian back. And Varian says, remind me to never get these two together at a breakfast before the con. We'll never make it to the show. LOL. It's the only time I ever met Archie Goodwin directly was he sat next to us when we had breakfast at at a convention.
I met him too at Chicago Con. He was fantastic. What a guy.
That's somebody that I wish I had gotten. Oh, I do. I have his autograph. I don't have it in my book, but I have it in a limited edition Star Wars reprint set with Al Williamson.
Mine is in a History of the DC Universe hardcover.
Oh, there you go.
From Graffiti. Yeah. In fact, real quick about Mike Carlin, he was my first autograph in that book. In that beautiful George Perez scene of Superman, he drew himself riding on Superman's shoulders, which is what he was doing anyway. But anyway, artists would see that and go, wait a minute, Carlin put something, he drew something? Well, I'm not letting him get one up on me. So I've got all kinds of illustrations in that books because of Mike Carlin. So I will brook no nasty talk about Mike Carlin unless I'm generating it. So
there we go. Understood. Variant says Sarah S. Lola loves Chicago. Will mainly Rosemont.
Same here.
Yeah, and the first couple of Rosemonts too were crazy with all the habit trails and all that.
Oh yeah,
across the street. They're very memorable. Good times. Yeah. Sarah says that's great, Varian. I wonder if we can all meet up someday. One of these days. You know, someday we'll get past the current buggy thing, and we'll all have one big Midwest convention. We'll all get together.
I'm there.
These two need to do the Sunday Funnies more often. Yeah, we're just sitting here jawing away. And for all of our radio listeners out there, since we passed the first of the hour, we want to welcome you to an episode of the Sunday Funnies. I'm your host, Randy Zimmerman, and I am here with Rising Tide Publications' Brian K. Morris, as we're reminiscing about the old days. We were going to have Mark Darden on, but apparently he has not made it.
Mark?
Which is okay. We can definitely fill up this time. So
yeah. We got the morning planned out for our audience. So
and it's kind of nice to do a. We're having trouble streaming to Facebook. Variant on Krista's Sunday Funnies may be an issue on Facebook's end. Is it possible the stream has ended or deleted from Facebook?
Maybe. I use StreamYard, and I frequently in the last couple, like 2-3 weeks, I've been getting this thing when I log on saying you may see a thing saying you are not broadcasting to Facebook, but you really are. The problem is on Facebook's end. Now, that's not to say that this might not be a kerfluffle, because Facebook is frequently worth what we pay for it, which is why I promote my YouTube channel.
But they frequently kerfluffle, though.
Frequently kerfluffle. They are kerfluffleicious.
I just checked my Facebook. We're still running.
Okay, good. Hi, Facebook.
Oh, good. And yes, hello, Facebook. Hello, everybody out there on YouTube as well. If you are part of the Indie Volt, if you're listening on the Indie Volt channel, please hit that like button, hit that bell for notifications, and do subscribe to the channel, because we long for the day when we have to worry about YouTube censors and have the ability to take super chats at the same time.
There we go. What a problem.
We shall never rule that day.
Yeah. And I have a YouTube channel also. We will be sharing this broadcast on there too. Look for Brian K. Morris Rising Tide Publications, where we put all of our shows because they look so good there.
There you go. Sticky Fangs. What Religion Gong does the guy in red answer to?
I have no time for formal religion because my work with the Illuminati and the Trilateral Commission keep me too busy.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Well, we are also part of Twitch, and sometimes on Twitch we get strange questions.
Oh, I see the icon there. Okay.
So, you know,
I love Twitch. I love the questions I get from Twitch.
Religion. Yeah. See, he's not a Doctor Who fan, so he doesn't know about fezzes. He just imagines that you're a Shriner or something.
The only person who's ever complained about this is an actual Shriner, and he goes like, "My fez is better than yours," and I'm like, oh, I can't deny that, pal.
No.
But and I had somebody at a show like 2 weeks ago. We actually had a show, believe it or not. But somebody came up and said, "Sir, I want to thank you for all that you do for the community." And I thought, well, he's obviously a fan of my broadcasting. He's seen my writing. He's seen my publishing. Well, thank you, sir. Which of my work is your favorite? And he's like, oh, no, I mean, I love it when you guys get on your little tricycles and ride around in parades and stuff. I'm like, oh, boy, we're going to have that conversation again. So, yeah.
No emblem on the fez. It's probably not a Shriner. So,
yeah, it's like, look what I can do with this thing. That you do that with one of theirs, and they will probably have a stroke in front of you. So I have a nicer one for shows, though. So
it's just a cool hat because fezzes are cool.
Fezzes are cool, exactly, Randy. Good man.
He says he's dumb. Sticky, that's okay. Sticky, we're here to educate, so it's all good.
It's a good one.
We appreciate you listening. This is on the radio. Yes, we are. We are on the Indie Volt live channel at indievolt.com, Indie Volt Radio. And we are heard around the world, and we deeply appreciate everybody listening in to the tens of thousands of people. Our last Sunday Funnies number was almost 60,000. So
oh, congratulations.
We appreciate everybody out there listening, and we deeply appreciate you doing so. So
yeah.
Catch the Crazy podcast, indie creator interviews, cool stories. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Crazy. We're full of them. We're just full of them. Yeah.
We are full of them.
Has to be Facebook having the issue. YouTube's doing great. Good to know, Sarah. Sarah, thank you so much. Joe says, I see you all fine. Yes. Yep. We already checked. Nine Realms says, fantastic answer at Brian. LOL.
Thank you.
Agreed. Nine Realms. Absolutely. And the Arts and Crafts channel pops in and says, loving the old stories. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So where'd we leave off? Late 80s?
I think so. Probably about the time that I got out of the comic shops and went with my own back issue operation, dealing with, here's the name, Capital City.
Oh yeah. Capital City Comics. Yeah.
Capital City was who I used to keep Diamond in line. Because my boss would go away from, he also owned property around the University of Illinois area.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd go off to play prominent landlord and I'm like, well, nobody's going to run the shop. I guess it's up to the assistant here. So I was doing all the ordering and everything. He'd just come in the evening and cut checks for me. And this worked, quite well for a time. But eventually I decided I wanted to move out of that particular business because I didn't think I was going to move up in the organization unless he willed the place to me or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, but like I said, I went solo and I was carrying new issues from Capital City. But when I worked in the shop, I would call Diamond for a reorder.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say, well, do you have this comic? And I always got the rep who would say, yeah, I think we've got it in the warehouse, but I don't feel like going down and get it today. And I'd say, well, okay, thank you for the great customer service. So I'll tell you what, no, don't worry about it. I'll just call Capital City.
Yeah.
And I would. And Capital City, of course, was always wanting to pull back some of their business from Diamond. And so I need a Cerebus number 78. You got any, I need one copy. Well, we can send you 3 if you want. They were just like a puppy dog eager for your love, which I appreciated. I could exploit it easily. So when I went rogue, I got Capital City as my distributor, but then we started going into the 90s glut.
Mm-hmm.
Where all the people who had been collecting Beanie Babies before that, and then before that they were into ball cards and almost destroyed each industry as they went through. Well, then they turned to comic books, and that's when I got out of the shop.
I was listening to a podcast not too long ago, and they kept calling it the Image Revolution, and I'm like, no, that's not a revolution, dude. That was from my standpoint, that was a devolution.
Yeah,
With
there
the
was some
de-evolution.
revolting going on. There was some revolting going on, but
So we
yeah.
saw the 80s with a group of black and white magazines that were phenomenal that dried up, disappeared, and literally jumped into obscurity.
Seriously.
Mr. Varian Grant is joining us now. Mr. Varian, how you doing?
Hi, Varian.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Yeah, you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you're a little echoey, but it's not bad. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. I'm laying in bed.
So we have definite proof of life.
I got a chance to walk briefly yesterday,
Awesome.
Cool.
which is nice.
What do you want me to switch? You should switch something?
Yeah, I'm not getting any sound out of my head.
That's the Indie Princess we're hearing in the background as well. Mr. Grant, do you have the this is going to sound weird, but do you have the butt on?
What kind of show is this you've lured me into?
Yeah, you've been
That's
bored.
That's his
Morning,
graph
guys.
for finding the radio numbers. Good morning, Indie Princess. Hope you're doing well.
Trying to.
Good.
Yeah, she has to sit and watch me.
Point and
Okay.
laugh.
Yeah, that's pretty much what she does.
Point and laugh at the old guys on your radio.
Yeah. I fired it up. It was set to go at 9. It actually went at 8:45, so we probably had about 20 minutes a day there. But I looked at and to our radio listeners, I want to say I know you guys may have noticed a drop in the amount of live shows we had. And that was on purpose. It was unannounced. We didn't mention it, but what we were doing, we were testing the bandwidth usage because we were getting some extremely high bandwidths and bandwidth charges, and I wanted to make sure that they were accurate. And apparently they are. Conclusive proof has showed me that they are accurate. So that's very good news. So you'll start seeing those live shows start returning to the network very soon.
But
with some retooling, a little retooling here and there.
Okay, are we going to have to throw that potathon after all and raise
Probably.
money for the extra bandwidth?
Probably.
Yeah. I figured we would. All right.
I heard you guys talking about Archie and newsprint and Harvey and
Yeah, all stuff before you were born.
yeah. I had to come in and say and just I figured this, the medicine doesn't let me get any sleep, but this conversation, this'll. I'm just kidding.
Oh, this is going to snooze you out. It's
No, it's actually
finally a sedative that I could use.
It's actually pretty interesting because, listen to you guys had talks of people that were legends and are legends in the industry, and it was. And I was thinking about I know that you guys went to cons. And maybe you met somebody who you idolized or you enjoyed their work, and maybe they were just having a bad day. Maybe you got a couple of bad experiences.
Oh yeah,
But,
I have a Tom DeFalco story exactly like that.
But for the most part, they were good experiences.
Yeah.
I've been hearing people complain all last year about comic book celebrities at shows. But I gotta say too, I've never met a weird comic book celebrity. I mean, they've all been really nice in person.
Yeah,
online is a different subject.
I caught DeFalco at a bad time at the end of the day of the show, and obviously he was not having a good day, and he took it out a little hard on me at the time. Well, that didn't sound right either, did it? Good thing with DLSV, he was a little rough on me. And I was like, geez, dude, you know what? I didn't kill your grandma. What the hell?
Yeah, and I followed Jim Aparo, or actually Jim Aparo was at a Chicago con, and
somebody I would have loved to have met. Just amazing.
One of the nicest guys, and he was nice up to the point where the guy in front of me, who had like a 2 foot tall stack of comics, said, "Sign them all right now." And Jim did it like a gentleman, and he signed them all. And of course, after that, he looks up at me like, "What?" And I understood it, and I said, "I'm sorry, Jim. I've only got one thing for you to sign. Is that okay?" And he like, "Oh, okay, that's fine." He got back to normal again. But that's as close as I've ever had to a mainstream pro being cranky to me personally. Although Steve Englehart, I've never gotten his, not to derail things, which I do all the time, but Steve Englehart was in another show where the guy in front of me, of course, brought a 3-foot stack of comics
Yeah.
and said, "Here." And
Yeah.
so Englehart took the top comic, opened it up, signed it, put it down, opened the second one, signed it, closed the cover, put the first one on top, shoved the pile back at the guy and said, "I'm out of here. Goodbye," and walked out. Never saw him for the other 3 days. So,
Wow.
but it wasn't at me, so I didn't care.
Obviously not having a good weekend.
Apparently not. This guy was the cherry on top of that particular Sunday.
Wow. Yeah, I bet. Happens all that. Hey, in the green room right now, we have Mr. Mark Darden coming in. Mark, how are you?
There he is.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning. We've been a bunch of old guys sitting around talking comic book experiences. So,
Speak for yourself, sir.
well,
I'm young
almost old
Get
guy.
the hell off my lawn.
Yeah, there you go.
I am young and full of life. Well, not full of life right now, but I'm.
You're still young. Yes.
Yeah, you know, it's weird. I think about it. The old guys are up, spry, walking around. The young guys laying in bed, can't move.
The coffee.
Yeah.
The elixir of life.
Could be.
Also, not having partied till 2 a.m. last night, that helps.
Yeah, that would probably be beneficial. You know, I haven't done that in a long time. I was looking through pictures the other day, and I was getting sentimental and nostalgic for the foolishness. And I used to, I can go out and party to 3:30 in the morning. It's cool. I got my own apartment.
Yeah, and I'm like, Indy Volt's on at 11. Good God, that's 2 hours after I go to bed. What are these people thinking?
Yep.
Yeah, we try to keep it on the 9s, but when it starts growing, people have like their shows at whatever time they really want, and sometimes I think people always figure, oh, I can go back and rewatch it, but if you have a lot of shows, you can lose it. You can lose the show that you intended to watch. Sorry, Lola's making a bunch of noise in the background. Unapologetically. All right. But yeah, I did want to ask you guys a question, and I know you want to get to Mark, but I just had a question. Okay, so
hang on just a second. Mark, you got time this morning, don't you?
Oh, yeah. We're good.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Barry.
When you guys were going to the old cons,
The old days.
Yeah. Did it seem to you guys as if, like, the level of celebrity changed? Like, at first it seemed to me, and again, I started going to cons in, mid, 2000, 2001, 2002. I went to a couple before that, but I was young. But it seems like the celebrities all were somehow connected to that world. So they had done, they had done some movie. They had, maybe this guy was a production designer on Masters of the Universe, Lord help him.
Yeah.
Or maybe this person was the lead evil character in this movie that was based off of this comic, and that's fine. But now, we get the Jake from State Farms. They literally have the guy from Jake from State Farm doing convention appearances.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's because there's money to be made at the shows for celebrity, no matter
Jake.
Yeah, no matter how obscure you are, there's money to be made at the shows. Yeah.
Yeah, I ran into a guy in an elevator who he was very nice, and but my wife asked him, "I'm sorry to be ignorant, but who are you?" And it turned out he was like in 2 episodes of The Walking Dead, 15th zombie from the back, and he and his friend were making tours. Mark, come back!
Mark,
come back!
Sorry,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I said something bad about Walking Dead, but no. And but he seemed a bit offended that we did not recognize him under like 3 feet of makeup, and computer effects.
Back. We lost you for a second. You hit the wrong button, didn't you? It's okay. It happens to
Oh,
me.
that never happens to us.
Yeah, it never happens to us.
No, Mark left because you guys talked about Walking Dead.
Yeah, we
did. Yeah.
We're apologizing.
He's got a Robert.
That's because he was the 14th zombie in Walking
He was a 14th.
Nobody
Now
recognized-
that's celebrity. 15th zombie. Okay, you're bound for obscurity. 14th zombie. Okay, I want your autograph. I want an article of clothing. I want your hotel keys. That's all there is to it.
I've been joking with Daphne. Daphne Lage, who's been on the show. She has a body pillow made of one of her characters, and you can go order them at her store. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to get body pillows of comic book celebrities? I could cut off a Robert Kirkman body pillow.
I'm copying this down for my new merch line.
Only if he has one of those strings with the hoop at the end of it that you can pull and he'll say something.
Yeah.
That'd be hilarious.
Oh, that would be great.
Get the heck away from me. Where the hell did you learn to write? You know? That's not how this works.
Oh my god, that's funny.
I'm telling you, I'll just go too far with. I have body pillows of everybody.
Get a Jack Kirby pillow that says, "Kid, comics will break your heart."
Oh, yeah.
We can cuddle with him. That'd be great.
And cuddle with Jack. Yeah. the Kirby cuddling.
Every time you squeeze it, comics will break your heart.
Yeah.
And I want the Carmine Infantino cuddle doll. Get away from me, kid. Get away.
And,
and then it cuts off. So
the Neil Adams cuddler. You call that an ear? That's not an ear.
Now, see, you guys say that, and it's funny until somebody decides to make the female version.
Yeah.
Of the pillows, and all of a sudden you got
What do you mean, fake geek girl? Leave me alone. Me too. Oh,
and suddenly we're all. Then next week, this episode is going to be up on Bleeding Cool. I predict it now.
Randy Zimmerman says fake geek girl is out there.
I did not mention anybody in particular. I'm just using terms that I've heard somewhere in the past. That's all. It's important to remember your history and to keep it in context. It's hashtag good education.
Yeah, and we want to point out that TV MAS DLS in the corner.
Yeah, I was not talking about anybody specifically.
I was gonna say that there was a person that we could do a body pillow of. We probably had to put 3 body pillows together to make it, more like them. But then I figured I'm not gonna say that because there'll be hell to pay tomorrow. Or even later on today after I say it. So I'm not going to say it.
Oh, no, I already know who you're going to talk about.
Yay.
Yeah. There will be hell to pay if you say it.
Yeah.
So
PM me the name. Anyway,
no one shall, they shall remain nameless, Indie Princess. Anyway.
Yeah. I did run across one other Guano Guy.
Did you?
Yeah, a couple years after I was already into it. No, it's just a random poster that somebody had created, and
we always found out in comics. I don't know if Brian has ever run into this, but whenever somebody has an idea for a comic, there's like 5 other people that have come up with the exact same idea at the exact same time, and it all depends upon your execution and how fast you get it to market as to how it works out. Somebody gives up because they don't have the time to do it. It ends up with a note on the bottom of somebody's notebook. Somebody gets close or does a little, maybe an ash can or a rough of it. Somebody gets as successful as you, Mark, and has a couple of great crowdfunders out there and is able to do full books and take it to the market and turn it into a major thing. So.
Yeah. Or you'll be on Facebook and there'll be like several groups saying, well, I'm sure Guano Guy is in the public domain because I'd really like to do my grim and gritty version of him where he's like a drug addict and a multiple amputee and,
a legion of flies that he controls mentally. Yeah.
Exactly. See, somebody else, I can do it better than the creator. So, you'll get a lot of that, I'm sure.
Just
darker, grittier, more realistic.
I'd find the humor in that. Just link it back. when I was doing stand up, I actually had a joke I did for 2 years, and then was driving in the car, and Greg Giraldo, who has passed away unfortunately, but was a really funny comedian, and he actually had the exact same joke, word for word, and that surprised me. I wasn't surprised with the subject, but when I heard him literally pronounce the exact same words in the exact same order, I was like, "Oh wow, that's way too coincidental, like to have thought the exact same thing." That's amazing.
You know what happened to me, and I went ahead and did it because I felt like I didn't know what the guy was saying at first, but one of the comics I'd write and draw is called Catharsis, and I'm a pretty wordy individual, and but the reason why I chose the name Catharsis is because Clerks. There's a chapter in the Clerks movie that Kevin Smith calls Catharsis, and I said, I'll use that as the name of my book. But later on, I found out there had been another Catharsis from Image in like 94, 95. So, I could add Varian Grant's Catharsis to that just to clear up any type of legal, but there's nothing ever come up. But the thing was, somebody came up to me and asked me to sign those old versions. And I'm like, that's not me. But, okay. So
I've had a couple people bring up copies of Rawhide Kid and ask me to sign them.
Oh, right.
And I'm like, dude, wrong Zimmerman. I would never write that book. That's not me.
I wouldn't sign that book if I was that Zimmerman.
Anyway.
Comedy again. I know we're not talking comedy, but I have a comedy book. But I did a joke where I opened with, or in there was, why buy the cow if you can get the milk for free? And a much more famous comedian had a joke using that same saying. And a comedian came up to me afterwards and was like, "Hey, I don't want to accuse you of copying, but someone else already has that joke." And I'm like, "You mean with a saying in it? A common say?" Like, that was the only, that was the similarity. I was like, wow, this person's young. They don't know that is just an old saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got into an argument when I moved over here to Indiana 6 years ago with a bagger at a grocery store who, I have a Superman tattoo on my wrist, and he saw it.
The worst arguments to have.
I know, and I think he got, even the cashiers were yelling at him to shut up because he was saying, Superman sucks now. It's terrible. I wish they would bring him back to the way he was when he was created by John Byrne.
Oh yeah,
created by John Byrne. Yeah,
by John Byrne. Yeah, and unfortunately, there is a part of me that suffers fools not lightly, and so I may have gone on the offensive, and I believe in firing my warning shots about 6 inches below the waterline. So it was not one of my best moments.
That's like asking. Go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
You're saying you kicked him in the nuts for saying John Byrne created Superman?
I was going to drive his testicles through his brains, assuming he had either.
Wait, this is a supermarket?
Yeah, it's a supermarket. This kid was all televangelist on the great creation of John Byrne, and I'm like, have you ignored the 50 years before that?
And that was the last time that Brian was allowed in Piggly Wiggly.
That's sad but true, but the cashiers were on my side because I could cite issues. I could cite issue numbers. So
there you go. That's like asking the news reporter who their favorite Marvel hero is.
And, who's your favorite Marvel Comics hero? Mine is Superman. Remember the motto? With great power comes great responsibility.
That's almost like one of those shirts that was going around where they would take the name of one band, show the cover art from a different band, and then list a song by a different one. Now they all sort of were in the same genre, so you might not like immediately realize what they're doing, but it was a pretty funny thing when I saw it, and that's almost like that woman did that. Except, she probably wasn't doing it to be funny.
No,
not at all. It sure is funny though.
Not intentionally funny, but
yeah. If she knew the goof, it would be pretty funny. But she probably did.
Yeah.
Well, she was reading off a teleprompter. She saw the S at the front and man at the end. She filled it in on her own. So I'm sure that's what happened.
Ron Burgundy.
Yeah.
Now, Mark, this happens to me a lot. Someone will ask me what I do, and I'll tell them comics, and they'll say, "Oh, you're a stand-up comedian," and I'm like, "Well, only at home." But you are a stand-up comedian and involved in comics. So I mean, do you get is that confusing to people when you try to explain to them what you do?
Oh, sure. It's very confusing. And it used to confuse myself, which one I was talking about in the moment. So if I just say, like, I write comic books, that way that's clear. And then if I say I do stand-up comedy. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if I go and I'm like, oh yeah, I do. I'm a comic. Well, yeah, I don't know. You could definitely say it some ways where it's confusing, but just add a little extra in there and remove the yeah. But I've had where I'm like, yes, I do comedy and comic books.
I think my next story is going to be about an anamorphic comic book that wants to go on stage and be funny, but he can't. Because he's like a serious comic. He's like a super dark, serious comic. There's no humor in there, and he's on stage. He goes up there and he's like, dead hamsters on the sidewalk in Chicago. And so people will laugh, and they don't laugh because he's just full of all this bile and horrible stuff. Yeah, they come and do it.
Isn't that Duckman? Didn't Duckman do that?
Who the hell is Duckman?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, that's a cartoon show. Jason Alexander was the voice.
Yeah, I always forget how young Varian is until he asks a question.
Oh my God!
Like that.
Yeah.
What's the Duckman? Who was Wally Wood? What did Russ Manning ever do?
Yeah.
That kind of.
Jason Alexander. You mean George Costanza?
Yes. Same
yeah.
guy.
Yeah. And his best friend was Dweezil Zappa.
Yeah.
And Tim Curry was a recurring character on that show, and I watched it just for Tim Curry showing up.
Oh yeah.
There was now this does relate to both things, but right after the Joker came out, I mean literally like the next day, I was watching Kill Tony, and the guest that came on hated the movie, and their argument was because he's a comedian, why couldn't the Joker have actually been funny? Like, why couldn't he have actually been a good comedian, told some great jokes, killed it, then got on the, show and done what he did? Why did he have to be a bad comedian? Yeah. And I was like, that's, yeah, true. Why couldn't they get a good joke writer and actually make him good at what he's doing rather than a schmuck, a goof?
Yeah. What would have been cool? A cool direction for that movie to maybe show him actually succeeding upward, and then the industry chairman part. That would have been kind of cool, too.
That would have probably taken too long to show, and it would have been more. It would have been unbelievable.
No, you just need a montage. He's just telling a couple jokes, montaging his way up to success. 5 minutes later, he's there. I finally made it.
Yeah, or he has like that one bad joke that kills his career, kind of a Michael Richards kind of thing. Hey, folks, thank you for a warm applause. Hey, I've got one more joke for you. Two parents and their kid walk into this alley, and then suddenly, the whole crowd goes against. I hate you, Waynes. Then we get the movie.
Then he's just like, oh, that's not funny. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I got to go the other way.
I'm feeling really chill now. Bang, 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 bang. So this stuff writes itself. I'm telling you, Hollywood, I am bound.
Oh, gosh. It's probably too soon. I was going to make a comment on The Boys, but yeah, that was only a couple days ago. I'll hold off.
Yeah.
I'll hold off.
Okay.
Not everybody's seen that yet.
Yeah. That was Friday, people. Come on. It's Sunday now.
Yeah. If you're any sort of fan.
I've only seen the first season, so.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you're definitely a ways behind. They just wrapped up the second one, right?
Oh, I do now. Now I'll sit down and watch it all at once.
Have I spoiled that for you? What?
That's what binge watching is for.
Yeah. I've got the comics, and I'm watching the show, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I hate to be that guy that goes back to the book while the show was going on, and I'm looking like that's not supposed to happen. Hey, wait a minute! And
that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
Yeah. Now, you really can't do that with Watchmen till the end.
Yeah.
Because everything else is like page for page, like, yep. And then you get down to the end and you're like, And
I'm sitting there watching it going, Zack Snyder's amazing. He's compressed all of this material down all up to this great point. Can't wait to see the end. And the end is not what was in the books.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
That should have been outside conventions, just people dressed as Rorschach but holding signs that like, I wanted my space squid.
And that was the part I liked, the fact that they replaced the space squid, but they still paid homage to it in the movie. I like that. It's like, here's a reference to that thing that Alan Moore stole because he couldn't think of anything else. Some genius, huh?
And to be fair, their solution was very logical. It made a lot of sense.
That's what I liked about it. It's like, part of the book that makes sense. Anyway, sorry. I do love Watchmen.
Yeah, and the editor had fought with Alan over that ending too. So
yeah, but he was just an editor. This is Alan Moore.
Yeah.
So
I read the boys' comic book, and I'm really, for the most part, enjoying the TV show and a lot of things they've changed. I'm like, because I looked at it where they've taken the skeleton of what the writer did and then have kind of fleshed out. They've kind of done what you should do, which is they kept the good stuff, and then they've looked at like, hey, we've got fresh eyes. We've already seen what he did. Now we can actually add on to and try and improve, having not have, we don't have to start this from the beginning, so we can flesh it out in a way that he might not have when he was trying to pump one of these out every month with without having all this to start from.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mostly appreciate what they're doing,
Yeah, I tune into a lot of the discussions, like especially like on the DC animated line, and people are like, "Well, they did it wrong because Superman spoke like as if he had like a comma between those two words, but in the comics it had a semicolon. It should have been longer. It's like it's the whole thing's terrible because of it, and it's like, why am I paying for the same story twice?" So I haven't watched The Boys yet. I am reading the comics currently, but and I'm loving it. Although I don't gravitate towards dark books as a rule, but I love the dark humor. But the thing is, the idea is like, if I've bought this book, why am I paying for the same plot over again, even though it's in another media? Give me something original and at least comparable to the original source material. Be faithful to the spirit of it rather than a letter by letter reenactment of it.
Well, if they did The Boys accurately,
release the porno version. I do know that. Release the porno version.
Yeah, that would be the accurate version.
Yeah, it would be. It'd be on Pornhub or something. So
you know what? I agree, but I used to think that I was edgy and hip and cool until Mr. Zimmerman gave me a bunch of comics that he used to do. But he gave me one. I'm not. I think Randy inked the story in it. The Night Terrors. Yeah. I'm reading this book, and I'm like, everybody who wrote this, who illustrated these pages, needs a CAT scan, because that was some dark stuff.
I believe a lot of that was written by Joe Monks. So
that was some dark stuff. I thought I was edgy and provocative.
Yeah.
Wow.
You need to read some of the early Cry for Dawn anthology material.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And how much Hart Fisher stuff have you ever read? That's about the same level of edgy.
Hart Fisher used to be one of my comic book customers.
Yeah,
I was there when all the Mothers for Christ or whatever stormed his house over the Jeffrey Dahmer book. He was kind of a local celebrity made good, So, but until the media started realizing what he had put out, and they're like, "Oh God, no!"
If you dig back in the Indie Vault archives, we had a whole show with him on. one time.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. I like Hart.
Oh
I
yeah,
like the
no,
heck
he's
out of him.
he's awesome. But
Yeah.
the in my mind, the thing that really makes him awesome is that he's not afraid to say something if he feels it,
No, he is not.
and he'll just put it right out there, and it's like, wow, okay,
Yeah. If he had if he was in the crop management business for the F word, his fields would be fallow.
Both of them, both F words.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I just want to see him run a Home Depot for a week. That's all.
I think I'd be worthy of his talents. I think that would be. I'd get the popcorn and the lawn chair just set up outside. That would be
it too, and watch all the employees coming out crying. Have a good time today, kid. Hart's a great boss, isn't he?
Yeah. And don't forget, your company does have a comprehensive healthcare package that does include mental therapy. So yeah, I could see this happening. Yeah,
we love you, Hart. We really do.
We do.
I have a question about that for Mark. Mark, you got you've had Guano Guy for some time now.
Yeah.
But do you ever find yourself like step away from Guano Guy and do another character or another idea you have?
Yeah. I'm really getting onto myself. I've got two others that I've written, and I really need to finish one of those two out and get going on it. One of them's a horror revenge, and the other one is a spy sword and sorcery.
I was going to say it still could go the other way. There could be a horror story about a horror's revenge.
Yeah.
There you go. I'm there.
So I've got those. I've got those two. The horror one's not funny at all. The spy fantasy, the sword and sorcery one started out funny, but it shifted gears to be a lot less funny. And I'd love to do. I need to do one of them. I need to just put the finishing pieces on one of them and get it going. And then that'll give me some real diversity. I had a convention where I was like, someone walked up to my table. I was like, "Do you like funny books?" And they turned and walked away. And I would love to have been like, "You like horror, right? Because I've got that too."
Well, the thing is with my stuff, I do comics and I do books, and I'll ask people, "What do you like to read?" And of course, 75% of them will say, "I like to read everything," and I'll go, "Oh, what a coincidence! That's just what I write." I haven't done two of the same thing ever.
Mark, before we go any farther, you need to introduce folks to Guano Guy.
Yes, please.
Oh gosh, yeah. The Guano Guy who saves the day as a way to make fame and fortune for himself, upstaged by Mr. Marvelous Man, his very simple competitor who doesn't even know there's a competition going on. And reporter Rita Ratika, who's trying to make her own fame and fortune by reporting on it all, rather than actually helping, which she has the capacity to do, but that hasn't really been revealed yet, although I'm saying it now. That's coming.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, issue number 3 that we've got right now is really funny. The smorgasbord of artists who do the backup stories and the subject material of those backup stories, in addition to Guano Guy and the main story battling ridiculous villains. I mean, far beyond the ridiculousness of some of the Batman ridiculous villains. He battles them in hilarity of ways with lots of witty dialogue. But then we've got bears being sent into space who have no idea how to go into space. We've got zombies that are complaining about the superheroes and how it's ruining their lives. We've got, well, Mr. Marvelous Man, we check in on him and why he didn't help solve the big calamity at the park. We explain away why he just flew by going, hey. And, oh, man, I got one more in there. And even, oh, well, yeah, I mean, we got cows making stuff. We got cows making handbags and hats.
There's Space Bear.
Yeah. We got men dressed as eggs giving financial advice. And
what more do you need?
Yeah. And this one's a fun one because, every hero wants to be witty and have the one-liners, but not everybody is. So why not hire some help to write your one-liners for you, feed them to you.
That's what happens here. At Indie Vault, I have someone in my ear all the time feeding me stuff to say.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, you're a.
And again, your current campaign is the Guano Guy number 3 plus all 6 other Guano Guy comics. Even though you're on number 3, you have 6 Guano Guy comics.
Right. It's difficult to explain that in a single line, so I just went with all 6 because we've got issues 1, 2, and 3, but then also 0, 1/2, 1.5, 2.5.
Love it.
When the next one comes around, I think all those additional ones are going to be collected by then into one trade, and then it'll be real easy. Like Guano Guy 1 through 4, plus the trade of short stories. It's not material contained within the 1 through 4, so you're not getting the same thing twice. Still difficult to explain.
Could be a pile of Guano Guy.
Yeah, you get a pile of guano.
Absolutely. That's Guano Guy. That is over on Kickstarter. Right now, you only have 5 days left in your campaign.
5 days.
5 days left to go. And you're almost at your goal. You're so close you can taste it, it looks like. $170 left to go.
Wow.
I guess
Well
that's
done.
not a thing to say about a property called Guano Guy. But
Well done.
yeah, getting there almost. So, folks, if you get a chance, swing by Kickstarter, take a look at Guano Guy. Guano Guy plus all 6 other Guano Guy comics. Guano Guy number 3 plus all 6 all together.
200 pages of material. So,
and it's fun. It's lighthearted. It's whimsical type stuff. Right?
Oh, yes. I didn't hear a question mark at the end of that. So
No, I didn't put one, but there it is.
Yes, everything you said was true. It is.
And you have a crossover with Geek Girl?
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
Is
And,
that part of the set?
yeah, there's a level with the Geek Girl issues included. And that was a real cool thing that came about because it was supposed to be a just an appearance in the background, but Sam decided to run with it and write Guano Guy into the story, and it was very Guano-esque. It's a lot of fun to have him show up there, and he Guano Guy even made the reviews when Geek Girl was getting reviewed, and they thought it was new characters for that book.
Cool.
Which I thought was funny.
Well, you
But that
never
was
know.
funny on like the Andy Kaufman level where like only I know the joke.
Yeah. Well, the more you get out there, the more folks are going to see you. So
Yeah. He also appeared in the back of a wrestling comic, but that was he was in the gym working out when they were working out.
oh, that's cool. All the more fun. So, Mark, thanks a lot for showing us your project.
Oh,
We appreciate you being on the show. Absolutely.
Thank you for showing the people my project. That I try to show my project as much as I can to anyone who will look at it.
Is showing your project like a euphemism for something? I'm sorry, that's the kind of show.
No, it's a Kickstarter campaign.
It's
It's a Kickstarter campaign.
Oh, okay. Whew, that was
Yeah.
close. Anyway,
Mark, tell the listening audience how they can get a hold of you.
Oh, Facebook is really a great way under Mark Darden. Or if you just want to follow the Guano Guy, there's also Facebook for that. Those are really the two best ways because I found if I really concentrate on one social media, I'll be a lot more engaged in that one than if I'm on 6 things and trying to pretend I actually, I really can do the one real well. So that's the one I like to push that one.
I hear you. Yep.
Just having 2 Facebook accounts is already enough work.
Yeah. Yep. I do know how that goes.
yeah.
Yeah, because I had an interview that I just did for a New York magazine, and I was like, where is that? Like, I know that guy wrote me. Where did I? Oh, it was in the other account. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't lose that because that's important. Oh, the Guano Guy's going to make it over to Britain, too. He going to actually be in a comic magazine over there.
Sweet.
So,
Nice.
yeah, I'm super stoked about that. That's so cool. I got
Which magazine is that?
So it's Comics Unlimited.
There we go. Yeah, we've got Glenn in the chat. So
Yeah, so I'm really excited about that because I mean, come on, I'm very, as a kid I really loved British comedy and watched quite a few shows as a kid, and if I could do a convention in England, that would just be, that'd be so cool for me.
Absolutely.
When I was watching shows as a kid, it was a long time till I realized that all British people don't talk like that. Because whenever I heard British people talk, it was always in a comedy, so they're always doing an over-the-top voice. And as a little kid, that's all I know. So It's like, all British people talk that way. Which I suppose would cross over. I mean, if someone shows up in the U.S. and all they've watched ever are 80s TV shows, and then they're just doing lines from that. And
that's why you get scam calls that say, if you do not pay the IRS immediately, Mr. Grant, come and throw you behind the bars. You going to what to me?
Exactly.
That's right. They're going to throw you behind the bars, Mr. Grant. Okay. The police will get to your house in 15 minutes. What's funny is I remember when I lived in Detroit, and they're like, yeah, we'll have the cops come to your house, and they're on the way there now. I'm like, BS. 2 of my friends got shot last week. Took the cops 4 hours to get there. BS. They're not coming for me.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, yeah, I know. The cops are always on their way here right now.
Yeah. Now I live in the suburbs. The cops do kind of come quick, so I might look out the window now. When my wife gave birth, when she went into labor, it was such a waste of resources. I called the ambulance in the most calm white guy voice I could muster. And I said, hello, my fiance is going into labor. I would like an ambulance. I gave him the address and everything. I wasn't hysterical, even though inside I'm hysterical.
Mm-hmm.
And no less than 3 fire trucks, 2 ambulances, and 3 police cars show up. My neighbors thought I killed her. Like, who sends a bunch of fire trucks? Somewhere, somebody right now, the house is burning down.
Yeah, it needed that help.
But we've got it over here for a woman going into labor. And she was embarrassed when she came out the steps. She's like, what are all these? Everyone's going to be looking. Like, I know. But I think it was the fact that a black guy called. They're like, we're going to send 3 cop cars just to make sure. To make up for it, though, to make up for all that, they let you play with the siren in the ambulance. So that was cool.
So I lived in a not so great neighborhood for a little while, and my roommate, against my he wanted to get another roommate, and he asked me what I thought of that roommate, and I was like, no, I don't think so. I don't get a good vibe here. But he brought the guy in anyway, and one night the guy was sitting out on the front porch yelling a word you should not yell ever, but yelling it in a neighborhood where you definitely shouldn't be yelling it. Like, the people right around us are going to come, and I don't want them to come for me because I wasn't doing it, but they're probably not going to give me the time to explain that. It was the other guy. So called the police to get this guy out of here because he's definitely on drugs. And when the police showed up, he looked at my roommate and pointed at me and was like, is this the guy? I'm like, what? No, I'm the one who called you guys.
It doesn't. Well, can we cuss on this show? No, I won't.
We're TVMA DLSV.
I had a moment in my mind where I'm like, oh my gosh, they're gonna arrest me and put me in jail for doing drugs, and I'm the one who called you. Do you have voice recognition? Can you play back the tape? I'm the guy. I'm the guy that called you, not the guy that did the thing. Yeah,
isn't that some shit? Like, the cops come to you and they're like, is it you? Why, you got a racist face. You look like you're used to saying the N-word. We're gonna throw you in. I don't.
Or it's like, you're bald. You must be a skinhead.
Yeah. I can't imagine what that's like. I can't.
Okay. Now, you guys have seen me, you've seen me here. I walk quick. I've always been a fast walker. I did a lot of hiking in the military, so I've always walked fast. And broad daylight, sunny day, lots of people around, birds are chirping. There should be no situation here. Nice neighborhood. But I'm walking quick, which means I usually catch up to people in front of me and pass them and keep going. And a person heard me walking a woman, and I saw her look over her shoulder back at me, and then saw her body freeze up and reach into her pocket for a can of mace that she slowly pulled out and opened the cap. And I was like, what happened to this woman in her life that she looked back and saw this guy and thought something was about to go down?
So with your military training, you disarmed her and broke her arm and left her in a pile, right? So please tell me it's so.
Is there a gang of? Okay, I don't want to say this in a way that makes me sound.
But you're probably right. Who knows what could have happened to her at that time to make her so jumpy?
There's a gang of well-dressed, well-to-do men who are out doing wrong to women in nice neighborhoods during broad daylight hours. It's those darn commercials where the white guy comes up and kicks the door in broad daylight, but then runs away because you have an alarm system.
Yeah. It's our burden. It's our burden to face.
Yeah, you know. I mean, that's really sad. I feel bad for you, but I just can't find myself to do it.
Actually, that's only happened to me twice, and the other time it was again because I walked too quick and I was catching up to somebody, and they turned and pulled their purse. And again, I was like, where is there this gang of well-dressed, nice-looking white men who are just coming after folks in broad daylight?
Yeah. Hey, you never know. John Walsh says you guys are out there doing all types of stuff. I would not be terrified if a white guy was walking up behind me really quickly. However, I need to check out a couple things. I need to check out that gentleman's if he's staring at his phone, that's fine. If he's got that 1,000-yard stare, maybe he's wearing a coat, that might concern me because
not any coat, not like a business coat. You mean the long coat where a lot of things could be concealed?
Yeah.
If he's got a jacket on, bam, done.
Yeah. It's like because you could ask him like. They'll give the information up like, hey, man, where you going? I just got fired from my job. Oh, okay. Well,
sorry to hear that, buddy.
Yeah. And make sure that, and if you're unemployed, a couple things there, make sure that you know where he's going. You don't want to go there and turn your resume in that day. And two, keep your resume.
Like, hey, are you going to the post office now? Okay. All right. Well, that's cool. No, me? No, I hate the post office. No.
What you do is,
these are I'm taking these to my mom's house. I baked cookies for her, but I deliver them myself. I don't trust the post office.
I'm not going there. And what you do is if you're looking for a job and that happens, somebody, you see some guy going to the job to do what he feels he has to do. Don't turn your resume that day. Wait a couple days. There's gonna be some job openings. There, I said it. That's why we're afraid of you. That's why we're afraid. You carry guns. You materialize them out of nowhere, like the fifth dimension. That's what it is. You pull it out.
Yeah.
I have a feeling there's going to be some openings very soon at the post office.
And the way we've been using it for indie comics, these guys are garbage. Have you taken your post office a cake, maybe some cookies lately? Because they're getting innovative with
crowdfunding campaigns.
Yeah. And
pallets of books. Yeah. Nine Realms says Varian.
Hey.
Sarah says hello to Varian's voice and great to get some walking yesterday.
Yeah, I got a chance to do some walking, some limping, but it was I had to get some stuff taken care of, and I figured I'm gonna do this. And I had one of those personal moments where after getting up, and you could hear what is the Is it Flight of Valkyries? No, what's the other one? I forget the name. It's an inspirational song they play whenever someone catches a touchdown. They do the montage. But yeah, walk into the bathroom was one of those moments yesterday.
Meredith says, good morning, Indie Volt. Walk of shame this morning after hanging out with Demon Phil last night. LOL.
The walk of shame. Meredith, do you know what the walk of shame? No.
Demon Phil. Comic Book Black Belt says hi, Meredith. He also says, all the pros I've conversed with at conventions have been lovely, but sadly online, many of them are a bit salty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, one of my best experiences was actually I wasn't doing it at the time. I had my comic book, but I hadn't yet hit printing, and got to hang out with Ron Mars over like a whole convention, like just, like I was walking by the table and he'd be like, hey, what's up? And I'd go over and like hang out and chat for hours and came back the next day, and super nice. It was one of the best con experiences I had. And, and one of those were like, oh, would you like me to sign that for you? I would love that. That would be wonderful. He was a great guy. I totally enjoyed him. Hopefully when I get to meet him again, he'll probably have no idea. I would totally understand.
Worst con experience I've had. I met Brian K. Morris at a show.
Oh, that guy's a jerk. I swear to God. Oh man, he's ruined so many people from this industry. God.
It's funny. I don't know if you guys like Brian and I didn't know each other, but I was always aware of him because he was the guy at the shows that the Fez had. And you see Brian walking around, and I'll tell you something. Brian walks around. I don't see him during the show. I usually see him before and after.
He's out of there.
So Brian, do you stay at your table? Is that what's going on? Are you at your table like hunkered down, or are you?
I hide under the table because I'm shy and afraid of crowds and any sort of human contact.
Oh,
Yeah.
Makes sense.
You're trying to work your way through it by going to shows.
Yeah, I'm overcompensating for it even as we speak. So
Yeah, shock therapy. You just jump right into the biggest mass you can.
yeah, you see, that's the problem, though. I thought the shock therapy was supposed to be for everyone else with my presence, but instead, it was supposed to be. It was misdirected. I don't know what's going on. No, it's a Fairgrant variant. No, actually, in reality, I am the guy who will not leave the booth.
Mm-hmm. So that's why I don't think you're doing the show.
Yeah, exactly. There's a 5-gallon bucket under me. I just don't trust anyone to man my booth or anything. And, I'm afraid that one person will come by with that one sale I'm going to make that weekend. So I want to be there, hand ready to accept their money. So
That's funny, Brian, because that's usually when I make all my best sales. It's when I'm away from the table. I walk away, everybody comes running up and they buy stuff. And then I come walking back up and there's nobody around.
Yeah, it's like you switch on the lights and the roaches are running back under the refrigerator. Yeah, I get that everywhere I go, though.
The person watching the booth goes, I made all of this for you. Oh, wow, thanks a lot. And then nothing the rest of the day.
I did do a show where they didn't have the people to get all the people out of the show at the end of the evening. Like, not the last day, like the first and second day. And that was a bit worrisome. Like, wait a minute, you guys just called it quits for the day and went home, but there's still all these people in here. Like, what am I supposed to do with all my stuff?
Yeah, or the ones that say, well, I have to leave, the show opens at 10. Well, I have to leave by 10:15 because I've got like a half-hour drive back home. And I'm like, dude, I drove 6 hours. I expect to get there maybe before the sun comes up and be sitting at the edge of the bed when my wife wakes up. That's about as close as we're getting to sleeping together tonight. So, folks just don't understand what it's like on this side of the table. So, and that could probably be an after hours Indie Volt episode all on its own. So,
Joe says, you think that's funny? Remind me to tell you about my experiences with Chris Claremont. Meredith says, I met one of my favorite authors once. She was so condescending and bored and cranky about being there. I threw out all her books and never read her again. I certainly didn't want her autograph.
Well, also got to meet Mark Waid, and he was also wonderful. Smiled, was very, very nice and charming. Did a great panel, too. Was talking about books, but also was telling people, like, hey, so-and-so's also talking. So seriously, get out of here. Go, like,
Wow.
do yourself a favor. You need to see them. Which, yeah.
Yeah, and I've got a good Chris
You never
Claremont
know.
story. So yeah, it's just when you get him, like we said earlier.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's a tough thing about doing appearances, because you could literally, if you're that person, have gotten terrible news the hour before the show starts, and you're just not in your right place. But the outside person, like, you can't sit there and explain to each person what just happened.
Right.
Well, I've run across Jim Shooter before, where he was short, and especially for such a tall guy. I mean, he was short, straight to the point, and looked a little angry, and then run across him at other shows, and he's friendly, he's open, he's talking, he's come on in, take a look, and just one of the nicest guys. And it all depends upon how you catch these folks. People have bad days. Everybody does.
Exactly.
Meredith says, I'd probably take a photo with Flo from Progressive. Wouldn't pay for it, but it would be funny.
That's what I want. I want a fluffy pillow of her.
You know who I want to? You know who I take a picture with?
Who?
The AT&T girl, Lily. I take a picture of her. I'm part of the problem.
Mm-hmm. You are.
I'm afraid, yes. I would do the same thing. Yes. I try very hard to separate art from artists. Russ says, comic book black belt, but they don't always make it easy. They say never meet your heroes. So Meredith says, if you're going to be in public meeting fans, be gracious. At the very least. Am I right? You're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
also, if you know you have a difficult personality, bring a handler, or bring someone with you who you really get along with, who talks your stuff good, and then minimize your contact where you could just kind of put in the final 10% with the fan.
You've ruined Russ's artwork for the day. Brian, he says he laughed and spit his coffee. Hopefully it didn't hit that drawing board too hard.
Mission accomplished. All right. My quota's met for the day.
Brian resorted to the wrestling low blow. Perish the thought. He doesn't take the Fez off for verbal fisticuffs unless it's needed.
That's a good point. My idea of revenge is when you tally it up at the end, you should still owe me one.
Glenn says very Kirby, Mark. Whatever. Variant says, Meredith, the creators are starting to see their careers suffer for it. Uh-oh.
Being rude. Yeah, rude creator.
Being rude, yep. Glenn sends a heart. Glenn says, so no, we don't. Anyway, it's a good job for you. We had that water behind us. Okay. Sorry, Glenn. I'm behind on my notes here. Long leather coat. Dodgy. Absolutely.
That's right. No wonder Brian feels like he's scared of conventions. Got a bunch of guys like Mark walking around in long leather coats.
Yeah.
I know.
But if I was going to do it, I think I would wear just the jacket and then go shirtless, always sunny style.
Mm-hmm.
And then hopefully people would get it. I would have pants on though. It's not that joke. That's not where we're going.
No.
Oh, you're supposed to wear pants at shows?
Yeah. Yeah, you are. That's
Well, this has been an education this morning, even for me. Thank you.
Don't get up.
another reason you stay behind your table.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I don't stand up.
There you
But
go.
it's still really bad for the people on the other side of your table who are, every time they look back behind them, like, oh no,
Again.
He's wearing a fez, but he's not wearing pants again. Yeah.
That's right. I'm glad to see my fans, and I can show it.
Glenn says he was referring to you guys taking the mick out of how we English speak. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, listen. I've got a couple friends over in the UK, and I'll tell you, when they talk, there are things that I have to, like when Ines says Adidas, she doesn't say Adidas like it's a brand that I can afford to wear. When she says it's Adidas, and I'm like, the fuck is that? I don't understand. And it sounds like something that I can't afford to wear. It sounds like it's posh and it's new, and so yeah. From now, but we've also been in America. We've been trained to understand that British or that English accent means authority, and you need to shut up and listen. Like when the little girl in Resident Evil says, "You're all gonna die down here," on that accent, you know the truth. You're all going to die down here. Oh, we're gonna die.
No, we work for the company. Yeah. Look, I have an ID badge.
I mean, I put my 2 weeks notice in, but this doesn't mean I have to die, dude.
Joe says, yes, I agree, Meredith. I always remember that when I'm at the booth, the worst thing is when you have to handle, when you have handle and workers putting you off with fans to keep the line moving.
Mm. The first time I got to, I was at somebody's house in Germany, and they had an Irish roommate, and it took, I think, about an hour, maybe two, of me talking to them where everything they were saying started to click. Like at first, I'm like, I know he's speaking the same language as me, and I can't understand. But then a bit, my brain got used to his style, and it started to translate, and then it was like, oh, okay, cool, we're back. I'm back on board. Super nice guy.
I learned a lot of English for a while. I was listening to the Canadian Broadcasting Company was on our cable channel here, and they would play early Sunday mornings episodes of Coronation Street.
Oh, wow.
It took me a couple of weeks to catch all of the different accents because they use people from all over the country on it. But once I got it, I was like, okay, then I could catch all of the different inflections. It took me a long time to figure out what a boot was, but I got it.
I was watching a documentary. They were talking about Grant Morrison.
They kept putting people in boots, and I'm like, well, they're not wearing shoes at all. They're wearing shoes. Instead, they're putting them in the trunk of the car. Yeah, go ahead.
I was watching a documentary of Grant Morrison, and my wife had enough of it. After about 20 minutes of him talking, she's like, turn it off. I can't take it anymore. And she can't stand I guess it's like the thick. Is he Irish?
Yeah, he's got a hardcore inflection. Yeah.
And it's really thick, and she can't take it. She can't understand what he's saying. She gave up. But it's kind of stuff at times. That's up. When I get rich, guys, I'm telling you, when I get rich, I'm gonna get weird. I'm gonna make sure I pick an accent. Like Madonna's here, I'm gonna take an accent. I don't know which one it's gonna be yet. I'm leaning toward Australian or African. That's right. That's my wish.
There's some South African accents that are pretty awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Glenn says he wrote the official Coronation Street magazine back in the 90s. Cool. That's awesome, Glenn. Glenn's wrote so many different things.
That's cool.
Great. We are going to have you on, like I keep saying, sometime real soon, Glenn, and we will we'll catch up to all of that. I promise. So, in the meantime, we are running just a little bit over.
When Glenn comes on, could you
stick it around for me?
No problem. Thanks for coming on.
I was vamping till you could get on here, Mark.
Yeah.
I was doing my part for you, brother. I'm here for you.
We're just shooting the guano till we can talk to the Guano Guy.
Yeah. It's the 3-hour time difference. I literally woke up and went, check the thing now. Get on now.
It's all right. We were doing okay. So
yeah.
But we're glad you were able to come on because you only have 5 days left in your
5 days.
Only 5 days. So people need to run over to Guano Guy number 3 and take a good look at that campaign and pledge in if at all possible. It's a good product, funny product. It'll be a great read.
I got so one of the artists that's in the book, Morgan Walters is doing an art show this weekend and had a poster up for the Guano Guy campaign, including because her involvement and also just being a nice person. And a guy walked by with his son and was like, the Guano Guy? Oh my gosh. And she sent me a whole message about him, and I got a picture, and his kid loves the Guano Guy and has read it over and over. That's to me, that's like the awesomest thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's your week, isn't it? That makes
That's the
especially out of the blue like that.
Yeah. No, it's so awesome when find out that's somebody's. It's kind of like Stan said, where he's like, every comic is somebody's first. Your book may be somebody's first, or it's somebody's favorite.
Yeah.
That's still really awesome. If I was 10 people's favorites, I'd really be making it in this world.
And I warn all of the artists out there, it's always the job that you think is your worst that turns out to be somebody's favorite. They'll bring over and say, I read this over and I love this book. It's like, I used to have a page from Champions that John Byrne penciled and Bob Layton inked. And I had both of them sign it, and both of them looked at it and said, you like this? Well, I'm glad you liked it. And they signed it and passed it over. Layton did the exact same thing after that. It's the funniest reaction because it's like, oh, that's funny. That's exactly what John said. I love it. But that was my title back when it was out. I was a big fan of that book and the early Defenders book. So anyway, Comic Book Black Belt says I can't understand what he's saying either. So
Morrison, yeah.
Oh, him, not me.
So anyway, we are running a little late. Good thing that we can afford the extra broad bandwidth, right, Varian?
Yeah.
Varian will never have me back on again because I'm so long-winded. So,
well, that's when you buy the Brian package.
let's not talk about my package.
Let's go around the horn one more time. Tell everybody where they can find you, Mark, one more time.
Boom, Facebook, Mark Darden, or the Guano Guy, either Mark Darden or the Guano Guy, either one.
Facebook.
Guano Guy's only Guano Guy stuff, obviously.
And that's Guano Guy number 3 that's currently on Kickstarter right now. Only 5 days left in your campaign. So if we have you on next week, your campaign will be over.
Yeah, unless it's well, if Sunday's the first day of the week, then yeah, next week will be Tuesday.
Yeah. All right. Brian, how can folks get a hold of you?
Well, thank you, Randy. I'm on Facebook. I also have a YouTube channel. I'm also on Amazon, and I do broadcasting on YouTube and on Facebook. So anywhere, look for Brian K. Morris, and you'll find me.
When is your next broadcast, Brian?
Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. We're going to be doing Nevermind the Furthermore, and Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to be talking to Demon Phil Locklear.
Cool. Varian, where can folks find you?
You'll be doing the walk of shame.
Yeah.
I'm used to it. I get my mail there.
You can find me at what you want to do is you want to go down to your local civil circuit courthouse, hire yourself a server to come. That's how you get a hold of me. Otherwise, Varian Grant on Facebook, KYD_V, Kid V on Twitter. I'm all over the place. Indie Vault, Last Call Comics, Liberty Entertainment Distribution Group. I'm freaking everywhere. I'm so tired. I'm so sick right now. If I don't get back to you, it's because I'm sick right now. So I am laying down. But business is still creeping on because I got a wife that does all that stuff, except she doesn't want to talk to anybody. So she does all the business. She's like, you can talk to them. I'm like, okay.
And he didn't even talk about his piano moving business or his used car lot.
Didn't talk about any of those. Yeah. And, we have a used piano lot now too. We're merging concepts. It's gonna be
awesome. Used piano lot.
Yeah.
Sweet. And anybody out there can listen to us on Indie Volt Radio at indievolt.com. You can listen online now whenever we're not streaming comic podcasts like this. You are hearing some great alternative and independent music programmed by the Indie Princess, by the way. And you can catch an app on Google Play for Indie Volt Radio as well as the Streama app. You can also jump over to indievolt.com and get to the radio station in that way as well. And Indie Volt also has a Roku channel. Check that out. There's some great, whenever they're not playing, or they're offering all sorts of streaming abilities, old wrestling programs of all kinds, great movies, and also podcasts like this. There's quite a few of those up there. We are always interested in your comments. Please send us your comments and questions to IndieVoltLive at indievolt.com. Please include IndieVolt Lives or Sunday Funnies this time in the subject line so that we know where it's from. Keep those emails to 90 words or less, and if at all possible, we will be more than happy to address any problem or situation that you have or anything that you want us to comment on then. And remember, our feedback will be better because of your setback. Hashtag get an education. Hashtag Indie Vault. And I'm your host, Randy Zimmerman. I'll be back next Sunday with a special, hopefully, if everything goes well and all the stars align correctly, we're going to have a special edition of the Sunday Funnies next Sunday with special guests Ralph Griffith and Stuart Kerr, and we'll be talking Arrow comics from back in the 80s. If you remember back that far, if not, we might be dredging up some old memories and digging up some old comics and old cadavers, talking about the days of Tales from the Universe and the Realm and all of that great stuff, and have a few other, hopefully, Arrow comic guests besides. And then after that, there'll be more Sunday Funnies. The Sunday Funnies always at 9 a.m. You are always welcome to join in. The usual Indie Vault podcast is on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m., where we talk about all types of comic and sequential art nitwittery. And then again, Thursday morning at the Breakfast Buzz. And also on Wednesdays, the Indie Princess has a special program called Geekgasm whenever she's able to put that on. Though we haven't had it every Wednesday, but almost every Wednesday again at 9 p.m. with a look at comics and sequential art from a hopefully feminine perspective. So are we missing anything, Varian?
No, I think that's it. But we do have some specials coming up soon. We're going to be doing our potathon, and we're going to be doing
that potathon.
And we got another special that I can't talk about. But I'll talk about when we're off the air.
Does that involve a straw hat and cane?
It does.
Oh, that's going to be fun. We're going to do some dancing, folks. You might actually see us dance on the air. We've been talking about doing a few really nice hardcore revealing podcasts where we get to wear the straw hat and cane, and perhaps on a few graves. So everybody take care of yourself. We are going to leave you now. And here I am trying to find it, and I am over on the wrong brand. That's all right. We are going to leave you now. We wish you all the best. Any parting words, anybody? That was your last chance. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. Be good. Thanks so much for listening to Sunday Funnies. Thank you to Indie Vault Radio listeners. Be careful, and we'll talk to you very soon. Stay healthy. Take care. Oh, and that's the wrong one. That's the wrong one.
What you've accomplished.
Do you draw the Flintstones naked?